Okay.
I'm not gonna stand for this. I will sit. All right, now I will stand again.
Thank you.
All right, now, we still have a bajillion candles, or candle scents.
From when we mixed all of our scents together and
Yeah.
made Chris candles.
Unfortunate.
Scents together and
Yeah.
made Chris candles.
Unfortunate.
I smell that beverage candle.
Let's go
It
with,
haunts me.
you know what? Fresh cotton. I mean,
You're not gonna go with floral? Oh, cotton because it's toilet paper? Okay, yeah, I guess that's on brand.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sheets. 6 sheets for everyone following along at home. Fold it in half. Very important. 4 reasons.
And then just make it into a rose.
Start rolling. I'm gonna start like adding little
let it be loose.
variations like this.
I think it's kind of working. It's kind of working.
Am I just a master rose crafter though?
It's a little big, but
There you go. There you go. Hey, it wasn't that easy.
here we go. Looks so tasty, like peppermint bark.
Oh my gosh, it really does look tasty.
It's going. It's getting gooped.
Get gooped. Is this gonna be red enough? I think maybe.
It could be a white rose. We could just leave it. Have it be toilet paper colored. Technically, you could just set that on fire and it'd be fine.
Also, how am I gonna dip it all of the way? They don't dip it all the way.
They just leave a nub.
They just leave a white toilet paper nub at the end. The red still hasn't dissolved really.
They're just suspended flakes. They're
Suspended
not melting
flakes.
at all.
Oh, we're already failing. We're already learning. Well, I think that there's like different wax, and we're using soy wax, which melts at a different temperature.
I think you're right.
I'll just add, should I just add some yellow?
Yellow?
The red? It'll add to the realism?
Sure.
Oh yeah, that looks way better. That's what we wanted.
Looks like you're like the Queen of Hearts painting the roses red.
Yeah. We just let this cool somehow.
Yeah. They didn't really talk about. You okay?
Yeah,
Do you get some wax on your finger?
just a little bit. I just wanted to see how hot it was.
Okay. I can go.
I want to keep it upright so that it dries into a beautiful rose so I can present it to you. All right, one thing I might be interested in trying.
Do you want to say that you just got it out of the freezer?
I just got this out of the freezer. It's just a wet paper towel. It's not waxy in any way. Look at that thin coating on my hands. I wonder if like scooping it on little by little will help add instead of remelt the wax. Because I worry if we dip the whole thing in there again.
It would just melt again.
I'm gonna get it all over myself.
Oh, it's on your wedding ring.
Oh no! Oh Jesus! It's spreading everywhere. It's just so greasy. Oh, it's just falling apart, and it's so greasy.
Maybe you should put on gloves next time.
You are so smart.
Thank you. Okay, second round of freezer is done.
Our wedding ring is still so.
Your wedding ring is still covered in wax. Mine is great. This might be the final dip. It has some meat to it now.
Okay, I also was sitting here looking at the images that represented us in this hack. And you know what I've noticed? Look at the wick. Look at this wick. Look at this wick. Look at that wick. Look at this wick.
Oh my gosh, their wick is not red.
Yeah.
Did they add a new wick? Did they just buy a rose candle?
Did they just buy a rose candle and add a wick? Look at this wick.
This wick is covered in wax. What?
It's all lies. Lies upon lies. These videos are always lies. Want to do another layer?
Yeah.
We're going to do a better job at this than they did.
We don't even know if theirs is real. That could just be a wax
It's
rose.
just all lies and treachery.
I do feel betrayed. But I also feel like I expected to be betrayed. Wow. It looks
So beautiful.
kind of like an organ.
Well, especially this like weird lumpy part at the bottom, which I think I'm gonna try cutting off. This. So weird. It's weird. And it's wrong. And it's, oh, hey.
Yeah, that helped.
Oh, that makes it look way better.
Yeah.
Might take a while to get it lit because the wick is really covered.
Covered in several coats of wax.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. So it's not really lightable. We're gonna melt this first. Or it might be going.
It's going. I think it's going.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, what happens as it burns? What happens as it burns? Look, pay attention to me. What happens when it burns?
And also, maybe we should either leave the area or like put on masks, because I don't know about like burning in, like breathing in a whole wad of toilet paper worth of fumes. Is that okay?
I'm gonna say yes.
It's okay to breathe it in?
Yeah, it's just cotton, right?
Weird Google searches. Can you breathe burning toilet paper?
Yeah, so this is made out of all sorts of different ingredients, including not just paper, but also like recycled stuff and everything like that. And it's bleached at some point in the process to make it white. Let's just stand back. Alright, I'm already starting to notice something. I'll use a pointing device to point. The wick is black, but also the toilet paper is becoming black all the way around it. So the toilet paper is burning and blackening right now.
Yeah.
Normally in a candle, you have a wick running down the center that sucks up all of the wax and paraffin as a fuel
Yeah.
and burns that. This isn't a candle.
No.
This is a giant wick.
This is a bad idea. This is just a flame ball.
It's just gonna become a flame ball. I kind of want to see it.
Yeah, me too. It's like you think you're gonna have like a romantic evening. You spend your afternoon making all
A
these
whole bunch of them.
like rose-shaped candles for you and your significant other, and you lay them out, and you're having dinner together, and then
Surprise!
oh my god, it's getting
Look
so
at all
big.
the, it's not burning clean anymore.
No, there's like a lot of like black smoke.
I mean, it's kind of impressive.
Yeah, it's quite the flame. Like, look at it shooting out.
It's a thing. It is a thing.
Well,
It's not a candle. It's symbolic.
Of what?
5-minute crafts. How it might look beautiful for a moment, but really, it's a flaming pile of toilet paper.
It's weird how it's so flat.
Oh, it's like,
Yeah, it's like a really violent flame.
do you hear it? Do you hear it? It's sizzling. You know, I think we should take this outside. Is this what you expected when you chose this craft?
I didn't know. Man, look at all the like dark on it. It's a fireball. That's a certified fireball. But look at the wax. Oh, it's gonna get on our driveway. Ugh. Okay, the driveway's safe. Is this the most dangerous life hack we've done?
Yes. This is the stupidest thing
I know.
ever.
They showed this in an indoor setting. Look at this. It's a massive flame.
It is massive.
It's massive.
This is massive. Oh, oh. It's truly a fireball. You
Yeah.
could attach this to the end of an arrow and use it as a fire arrow.
Oh yeah, for
Right?
sure. And it looks like it's dripping blood too.
That's kind of hardcore.
Yeah.
Like that's really metal.
Yeah, it's pretty metal.
It's crazy though that like someone just put this out on the internet.
I know. As like
As a
DIY instructions for someone to
This
do.
is not a fun, acceptable, and safe DIY.
No, this is danger.
It's only fun and accessible.
Do you have specific goals you want to accomplish this year? If you want to eat well, cut back on expensive takeout, and save time, you should check out today's sponsor, HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
We're not just sponsored by HelloFresh. We're also actual HelloFresh customers who use their recipes every week.
My parents are too, and it's fun chatting with my mom every week about what recipes they chose from that week's 35 options.
But back to goals. If making calorie-smart meals is something you want to tackle, HelloFresh has you covered and even lets you swap sides or add proteins.
Or alternatively, if having pancakes for lunch is your goal, you can do that too.
They also save you time with your new fast and fresh meals ready in under 15 minutes, like Southwest pork and bean burritos.
And these are the fanciest pancakes I've ever had.
Cheers.
So good. This is so fancy. You're so fancy.
Go to HelloFresh.com and use code EvanandCaitlin21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping.
You know, I kind of win no matter what with this because I like fire and all candles involve fire. Nail polish? Are we doing water marbling?
Maybe.
For the first time?
Well, we did it. We did like a craft kit.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh! Again, burning something that's not meant to be burnt. Is nail polish?
Nail polish is flammable.
Nail polish is flammable.
I just want to see how flammable.
Butyl acetate, ethyl acetate, nitrocellulose. I mean, every single ingredient on this.
Sounds like you shouldn't burn it.
Let's do this one outside also.
You know, I wasn't planning for this video to be like dangerous life hacks, but here we are. I mean, we've never done water marbling with nail polish before.
No. Ooh, okay. I mean, it's kind of looking like it's supposed to.
Very fun, I like.
How should we do?
I don't know. Looks like a gender reveal cake.
Yeah. Do some wiggles.
Okay.
All right.
This is nicely squiggled. I'm going in. Oh, it looks pretty cool in there.
Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Here, let me get the stick.
I can't see.
Let me clear it. Whoa! I mean,
It's mostly green.
it's still
Pretty cool
cool.
though. How do we dry this? It's covered in nail polish. Like,
So we looked up tutorials on water marbling. It says you can wipe off the beach water after about 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, now we burn it?
we burn it. I mean, this one was pretty easy to complete.
Yeah. If you were gonna leave this out as a decorative candle, that might be fine.
But the thing is, like, if you were gonna leave it out as a decorative candle,
You just buy a fake candle.
or just do that to a stick, I don't know.
Let's burn it though. Should we do it in here or outside?
We can start it here.
You know, is this overkill? I don't know, maybe, or maybe it's what we need, which is why we're doing this and you're not. A little bit of the nail polish has gone to the wick, and it's on the wick, it's being sucked up.
Yeah, it hasn't like dripped down the sides, it's kind of dripping in the middle.
Yeah,
Now,
because it's having a hard time melting the nail polish. Smoke's happening, it's getting even bigger. Whoa, something's happening.
Okay.
We've just been sitting here like kind of semi-monitoring things.
it's definitely getting bigger. Should we bring it outside?
Wow, there's like a spider web.
Oh, now it's dying down.
Yeah, it might have been burning off the nail polish.
And now it's really going low, like really low.
It goes through phases of like flaring up and then dying down, and flaring up and
this
dying
is-
down. And now it's getting big again. I don't understand.
I don't understand. It's going down so much.
Oh, is it dying? Is it dying?
I don't know.
I kind of hope that it dies so we can end this experiment.
Die.
This, surprisingly, isn't dying. It's just
Yeah.
kind of chugging through the nail polish. Now, do I think it's a good idea? No. Does it look cool?
Life isn't all about looking cool. I would know. Run. Are you ready for the next hack? I have everything prepared. I kind of want to show you the ingredients before you watch it, actually.
It's so many ingredients.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Can you guess?
Various mixers, cupcake tins, a bowl. We're making a cupcake candle.
We are.
All right.
We're gonna whip some wax. And apparently it looks like that when you're done. Now look at it in that form when they put it in. It's kind of like liquid and chunky, right?
Yeah.
And now
What?
they pipe it in a whipped cream holder. And it no longer looks liquid and chunky. Like that looks like actual whipped cream.
That
and
looks
also,
like actual whipped cream.
Also, I'm pretty sure those are actual sprinkles, which you're not supposed to do.
Okay, so they made a wax bottom.
Yeah, that part seems simple.
And they whip. Oh my gosh, that's gonna get hot molten wax everywhere. That's not what I'm into.
But like this texture difference, I am suspicious. Like I'm pretty sure they just piped actual whipped cream.
I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, it was dripping out the bottom.
Right?
Right?
It's like liquid and like granular, chunky. This is like uniform, literal whipped cream.
Look at how puffy it is right
so
there.
puffy.
At that moment, that is 100%
I feel like it's
whipped
just
cream.
I feel like it's just gonna like glob and plop off.
But the other thing is this, candle wax has two states, liquid and solid.
Maybe
There
there's whipped.
there is no gooey in between. Unless it's whipped.
Unless it's whipped.
So this is 3 settings. This is the low, medium, and the high. Do you think I should start with the low?
Start with left.
I mean, it's going.
It's so jiggly.
Whoa! Oh, geez!
I think we might have to put it in the bowl. Hey, maybe you'll remove your hand and it'll be super wet. Oh, surprise for all of us. No. I've had another realization. When they put the mixer into there, it says melted wax, but it's white.
It looks almost like coconut oil. It looks like coconut oil.
So it goes from candle wax to potentially coconut oil to potentially actual whipped cream.
You see how there's this.
I'm sorry.
I know. Are you allergic to BS too?
So I looked it up. You are supposed to be able to whip wax, but it says it needs to cool in the pour pot long enough for it to set up along the sides and have a film on the top.
Come on, whipping. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow, it's going. Oh, but it's much thicker.
That's good.
Should I go to higher speed?
Yeah, just block it with your left hand. I just don't want to get any wax on this Evan and Caitlin merch. Stop Evan and Caitlin.
Oh yeah, it's very valuable stuff. Look at that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's thick.
Really goofy and quite solid and thick.
It's goofy, but it's like not grainy like theirs was.
Honestly, wait. Oh. Wait a second.
Okay, this actually looks good.
Wait a
It
second.
doesn't look like theirs. Theirs still looked like actual whipped cream more than this, but this actually looks pretty good. Look at that. Honestly, it looks pretty dang cute. It is all wax. Like I don't think it's gonna be a danger. Now I do wonder, like as you start melting it, will this spill over the edge?
Yeah.
You know?
Let's let it solidify.
And then let's melt it and
And then
see what
let's melt
happens.
it. Yeah, let's reserve judgment.
Yeah. But like it looks cute, right? Like that looks like I'd eat it.
I have to admit, I did cut the the wick a little small, but I think we can get it lit.
I think we can get it. We didn't know how high the whipped cream would actually pile up.
I mean, sometimes with these 5 minute caps, is this 5 minute cap? This is
yeah.
5 minute cap. I wonder why they just don't do this.
I don't
It's not
know.
that much harder, and then it's real.
I don't know.
This looks completely different than what theirs looked like.
Theirs didn't look like this at all.
Yeah. So wait, in their video, do they take it out of the holder?
I don't think so. These holders are meant to go in the oven, so. Did they
No,
take it?
they took it off.
Oh. Silicone holders are meant for like 500 degrees though, or something.
It's okay. It actually looks great. But I mean, it's only cool for this one moment.
Yeah, once it melts past the whipped cream, it's gonna look bad, I think.
It's lame.
But it looks cool now.
It looks cool now. I sometimes wonder. Don't sue me. But I wonder if sometimes 5 minute crafts will see an idea done well like this, and then they do it themselves. Or
You know, maybe I just want to believe, okay?
maybe it's one to
Maybe I
believe.
want to believe that there is integrity for some good people. Crafts Corporation
Did you
LLC.
say 5 minute crafts? Your subconscious thoughts are coming through here, baby.
I'm just trying to have faith in humanity. Well, as we feared, it just spilled out everywhere. Unlike, a pillar candle, which kind of goes in on
But I
itself.
think overall we can consider this a mild success. We have a boring and dangerous failure. Then we have a very exciting and dangerous failure. But through all of this, I think the most important thing is that we had fun. So I'm gonna take these two things and I'll see you later.
I didn't even look at that though.
Oh my God.
Oh no!
Actually, yeah. Get a little bit closer to it. Okay.
That's hot. I can feel it on my face.
Look at it. Okay, I think we got it.
What's up guys, Houndish here, and today
Hey, want a great gaming PC? Check out Apex. I got my own custom line with them and they perform beautifully. Use my code at checkout for a discount. You're welcome. Zer's at the tower and watch my complete Root of Nightmares raid guide. Featured exotics. Still waiting for a trace rifle meta. The sealed nobody cares. Back in my day, we could use this to solo Riven. And the gloves of Nicolas Cage. Bad roll on all three, don't bother. Weapon-wise, we got an okay looking Firefright out here if you're down with auto rifles. Although if you really cared about that gun, you'd probably have a crafted one by now. Same thing for disparity. Enigma's Draw comes with a perk that should no longer be in the game because it's now an in-game feature. Fun! Blast but 2 is my favorite legendary power weapon to bring into PvP. Not a perfect roll, but it's got proxy. Try it out. Armor-wise, Warlock got a wacky helmet, but nothing too great. Titan's got 165 drop, but it ain't even that good. Hunter's got weird gauntlets, and that's about it. As always, pick up whatever you don't have, or if the roll's better than what you got, like comments on post.
This is the complete history and evolution of the Destiny franchise. Starting with the earliest versions of the game and ending with where we are today, this is the experience of what it was like to be a Guardian throughout the ages. So whether you're a seasoned veteran reliving this nostalgic journey or a new player discovering what you missed out on, this is the history of Destiny. The year is 2008. Absolutely nobody has heard of Destiny at this point, but the first concepts of the game are being born. The developers at Bungie are planning to make Destiny a fantasy game. The current concept art features horses, medieval castles, and crazy-looking monsters. This incredible city is going to be Destiny's main social space. But something doesn't feel quite right. The fantasy concepts are cool, but the developers just feel really drawn to the realm of science fiction. So, they've decided to invent a new genre called mythic science fiction, one where medieval ruins and crazy alien spaceships come together. Bungie decides that this image will define their vision going forward, and this Space Tiger inspires them to give Destiny the codename Project Tiger. After hundreds of additional concepts made by Bungie's 400 developers, the first ideas for the Last City and the Traveler are now being created. Titans, Hunters, and Warlocks are being invented and tweaked alongside Destiny's races: Human, Awoken, Exo, and Tiger Man. A few months later, Tiger Man has now been removed, and we're left with the final 3 races and classes. With some of the initial prototypes now complete, Destiny is set to be a third-person game unlike anything the world has ever seen. The developers are exploring tons of new ideas, and right now there's a version of the game where you can manually fly your ship around to different areas as you explore the Destiny universe. In 2011, early versions of the now first-person Destiny are now playable. Bungie is making these prototypes using the engine from Halo Reach, their previous title. The first enemies are now in the game, and the user interface is going through a ton of iterations in order to figure out what works best. The first playable version of the tower is created, and the user interface changes again, now including the option to trade items with other players. Worlds are slowly being constructed, and things are starting to really come together. A former contractor at Bungie has just leaked the name Destiny to the public for the first time. We're all unsure about the validity of this leak, but it is very interesting, especially considering that this poster in Halo includes the words, "Destiny awaits."
Stories tell of a golden age long ago, when our civilization spanned the system. It was a bright and hopeful time, but it didn't last.
Bungie just launched their first ever official Destiny reveal, a video called Pathways Out of Darkness. For the first time, we're seeing some details about what the Destiny universe will look like. We get a look at the user interface and a basic explanation of the game's story. As interest in the game starts to steadily climb, YouTubers like Datto and Bife start to cover the game, even though it won't be launching for quite a while.
Destiny is the new sci-fi fantasy shooter coming from Bungie. It is a very ambitious project that plans to take its course over the next 10 years.
You are invited to join our fire team as we introduce the world to Destiny.
Bungie is now hosting a series of events at E3 2013 to introduce the world to Destiny. News of Destiny hasn't spread too far because there's still a lot of time to go before launch, but right now the most avid fans are getting a first look at real pre-alpha gameplay after waiting for hours in the lines. After E3 wraps up, the chatter about Destiny starts to pick up a little. However, unbeknownst to everyone, the developers at Bungie are in panic mode. Bungie leadership has just decided to delete the entire story that they've been working on for years and start over from scratch. The old story heavily involves a character named Crow, who is basically your buddy. He goes with you everywhere as you explore the Destiny universe and delve into the secrets of the collapse. Crow is featured in nearly every cutscene and plays a major role in your journey as a Guardian. But for whatever reason, Bungie leadership doesn't like this story. This is just one of many challenges that Bungie is facing right now, and everyone is scrambling to rewrite the story, construct the game's infrastructure, and get every little detail ready for launch. A year has gone by, and it's now finally time for the masses to get their hands on Destiny. It's June 2014, and it's time for the alpha. Players are able to create a character that starts at level 3, visit the tower, and continue to level up on the Cosmodrome, a destination on Earth. There's also One Strike and the Crucible. Playing the alpha is amazing. Even though you can only go to the tower and the Cosmodrome, the feeling of exploring a vast new world is exhilarating. People are finding little secrets like this map at the tower that you can only access by interacting with one of the bots, and this level knight who is extremely overpowered and almost impossible to defeat. Everyone wants to level up and become more powerful so that one day they can return and defeat this knight. Whether you're grinding to reach the level 8 cap, trying out all of the weapons at the gunsmith, or just dancing in the tower, you're having fun in the alpha. The public perception of Destiny is drastically changing now that people are able to experience it. From the perspective of the masses, Destiny has gone from, that looks alright, to, oh my gosh, this game is insane, and I cannot wait for the full release. Hype has reached a level 10 times higher than it was before. About a month later, it's now time for the beta. This is a pretty similar experience to the alpha, except now we have a bit more stuff, like 2 more PvP maps and a new event called the Iron Banner. The beta is going great, and it's continuing to build everyone's interest in Destiny. It's now the last day of the beta, and we're in for a surprise. Bungie has just unlocked a brand new patrol space. We can go to the moon. Everyone has been wondering about the moon ever since our ghost, voiced by Peter Dinklage, told us this. As launch day approaches, more and more info is coming out about the game. There's an epic live-action trailer telling us to become legend, new blog posts from Bungie, and even a tool that lets us view every planet early, kind of like Google Earth. At this point in time, everyone is talking about Destiny. There are billboards all over Times Square, posters in the subway tunnels, and even TV commercial breaks are being dominated by Destiny advertisements. The hype is almost unbelievable. Before the game is even out, people are making full-on cosplay sets, rocking Destiny merch, and telling all of their friends about the game. Destiny is trending everywhere, and the people are ready. It is finally time.
This is the first time we've done this. Alright, here we go. Pressing button. We're online. Okay, 26 people, 36 people, 62, 140, 171, 292 people, 1,000 people, 1,800 people. We're live!
Destiny servers are live. This adventure has begun. It's awesome to have you here.
As players flood into Destiny for the very first time, they're selecting their classes, playing through the initial story missions, and acquiring their first loot. Every piece of loot is exciting. Even green and blue drops give players a dopamine rush as they inspect it to find out what they just acquired. Right now, the game feels magical for every single player. The Destiny director represents an entire universe to explore, and everything you do is a brand new experience. There's a profound sense of mystery and adventure because people know literally nothing about the game. This ignorance contributes to intense feelings of excitement whenever you find a new mission, a hidden chest full of loot, or a brand new area that you've never seen before. However, there is one thing that's more exciting and intriguing than anything else: exotic loot. These extremely powerful weapon and armor pieces are super mysterious because some people don't even know they exist, and almost nobody has acquired one. They seem to be unbelievably rare. The game doesn't include any way to discover or research exotic weapons, so seeing another player holding an exotic immediately overwhelms you with questions. What is that? What does it do? And most importantly, how can I get it? These questions are filling players with an insane feeling of anticipation whenever the loot screen pops up. Is something cool about to pop onto my screen? Could I potentially discover an exotic that nobody else has seen before? Publisher Activision reports that they sold over $500 million worth of Destiny to retail stores on day one, making Destiny the most successful video game franchise launch of all time. Hype is still reaching new heights as more and more Guardians join the Destiny universe to see what it has to offer. Right now, loot is truly scarce. Other loot-focused games tend to shower players with loot for doing basic activities, but Destiny is not like this at all. If you want loot, you really have to earn it. And even after you earn it, you have to level it up. The grind to level up is real, and it's especially brutal because it requires a ton of planetary materials. A big part of the game right now involves running around in patrol for hours and hours, farming for the needed planetary materials. Having the loot be this rare and difficult to acquire is a little frustrating for some, but all of that grind and frustration makes it all the more satisfying when you finally get a drop.
Oh, this is the cloak I've been wanting! Oh my god, it's sick!
On Friday, this guy appeared in the tower. Most players don't even know he exists, but he is selling exotics. However, unlike other vendors, you'll need a lot of strange coins in order to buy anything, and these are fairly difficult to get. Here on week 1, almost nobody has enough strange coins to purchase a weapon, and those who do are probably choosing the Red Death, a powerful pulse rifle that heals you on every kill. But of course, this will only happen after you use it for a long time to unlock all of its perks. This whole weapon leveling system makes it kind of difficult to tell which weapons are actually good, because some will feel extremely bad before they are leveled up, and then extremely powerful afterward. With Destiny being a brand new franchise, the novelty factor is making players love even the little things about the game. We love simply driving our sparrows around, using our emotes, and just hanging out in the tower. Remember how I mentioned loot being scarce? Well, players have been desperately searching for a way to get more loot, and they might have just succeeded in week 2 of Destiny. Someone has just stumbled upon a place they're calling the Loot Cave. This is a particular cave in the Cosmodrome where you can just mindlessly farm enemies and be handsomely rewarded with engrams. The news is spreading like wildfire, and hundreds of thousands of loot-hungry guardians are swarming the cave with hopes of getting their first legendary gear or perhaps even an exotic. However, players' dreams of good loot are being crushed by the Cryptarch, Master Rahul. He is taking purple legendary engrams and mostly turning them into blue items or materials. There's nothing more frustrating than going to the Cryptarch after hours of farming the loot cave just to be disappointed with random bad luck. In this second week, Bungie has also just released a monumental piece of content, Destiny's first raid, the Vault of Glass. Raids have existed in PC games like World of Warcraft for a while, but this is the first time a true MMO-like raid has ever been on a console. When you also take into consideration that this is a first-person looter shooter, it's clear that the Vault of Glass is the first of its kind. This clan named Prime Guard secures the first ever Vault of Glass completion after 14 straight hours of raiding, but soon after, people have now discovered that you can simply push the final boss off the map for a free W. Speaking of the final boss, Atheon has tons of bugs that can wipe your entire team for literally no reason. Overall though, everyone who attempts the raid is awestruck by the environment, the bosses, and of course, the loot. The secret chests, the creative encounter design, and just the sheer scale of the raid makes it a true spectacle and something that every player wants to beat. That strange-looking Xur character is back again. This week he's selling a rocket launcher? Really? Heavy ammo is kind of rare, and most of the time you're not going to be using your heavy weapon, so most people are deciding not to buy the Gjallarhorn. The community has basically decided it's probably best to save up your strange coins because maybe Xur will sell a primary weapon next week. Bungie just published an article called Bungie Weekly Update. Nobody knows if they will actually continue publishing one of these every week forever, but it's nice to hear from the developers now that the game has launched. They're reporting that we have played Destiny for over 100 million hours, which is equivalent to 11,000 years, all within the first week. The game is clearly off to a good start, and it's evident that this is a magical time to be a Destiny player. But some people are realizing that parts of the game aren't exactly perfect. There are only 20 story missions to play through, and the narrative leaves a lot to be desired. Since there's no in-game lore, almost nobody has a deep understanding of the game's backstory or its characters. It's now week 3 of Destiny, and a new event called the Queen's Wrath just started. This previously blocked off area in the tower is now open, revealing Petra and her ship. This event offers armor, shaders, and emblems for completing story missions. Playing a relatively boring story mission for the 5th time isn't exactly exciting, but it sure is rewarding. Datto basically sums it up.
This is, by far, the best way to try and gear up in legendary gear.
Up to this point, a lot of players still don't have a full set of legendary gear, so this event is helping everyone finally get some high-level purple items. As time goes on, players are starting to recognize the power of the Gjallarhorn. Remember that rocket launcher that nobody bought from Xur 2 weeks ago? Well, now people are starting to really talk about it, and it's growing in popularity. This guy even built it entirely out of Lego. Overall, it's just insanely powerful and deals massive amounts of damage, unlike anything else in the game. As players continue to experience the game and some of the initial hype wears off, the reviews are starting to pour in. Some reviews are pretty positive due to the game's amazing visuals, gunplay, and core gameplay mechanics. Others, though, are more critical, citing poor level design, loot being too scarce for a looter shooter, and a boring story as some of their main concerns. And they aren't wrong. Being told to defend your ghost for the 15th time while he scans some random box isn't exactly exciting, and overall the objectives are very basic and boring.
My to-do list is shoot a bunch of guys, shoot a bunch of guys, shoot a bunch of guys and take their stuff, and finally stand still and look at stuff for 30 seconds.
Another huge disappointment is that there is no lore in the actual game. If you want to learn about the details of the story, you have to close the game and go read stuff on Bungie's website. Bungie originally promised that Destiny would have an epic story on the same level of Star Wars or Harry Potter, and since they clearly didn't deliver on that, fans are a little disappointed. There are definitely some problems with the loot and the leveling as well. The only way to get to level 30 is to do the raid, but the raid is also kind of hard if you aren't level 30. You have to be extremely lucky to get all of the raid loot, and this is causing a lot of people to get stuck at level 29. The hashtag Forever29 is becoming somewhat of an inside joke within the Destiny community. The other problem is that since the raid gear is the only high-level gear, everyone looks exactly the same. There is no transmog or customization system that can traditionally be found in other MMOs. The only thing we can do is select a single shader that applies to all of our equipped armor. Unfortunately, the Guardian customization doesn't exactly have many good-looking options either, so people are a little annoyed with the customization and appearance options in the game as a whole. PvP is starting to draw a lot of attention from the community. The Crucible has a total of 12 maps and 6 modes, and it's actually kind of fun. Featuring infinite special ammo from crates around the map and defeated opponents, and supers that take only 1 minute to charge up, PvP is pretty hectic. Nobody really knows what they're doing because the game is new and everyone is just having a good time learning together. However, there is a huge problem in PvP. 2 exotic weapons, the Suros Regime and the Vex Mythoclast, are absurdly overpowered. Most people do not have these weapons, and whenever you face someone who does, you don't stand a chance. Like, it's not even close. This continued for a while, but now it's October 2014 and a new endgame PvP event called Iron Banner has just begun. It has brought with it some desperately needed nerfs for Vex and auto rifles including Suros. Iron Banner is attracting a wider audience to PvP and providing some really cool rewards, but overall it isn't revolutionary. At this point, it's common knowledge just how powerful the Gjallarhorn is, and unfortunately it's becoming increasingly common to see LFG posts requiring it just to do endgame activities like the Nightclub. This is a disturbing new trend in the community, but it just goes to show how insanely powerful and game-changing the Gjallarhorn really is. It's even in this new Taco Bell advertisement that just came out. Who knows though, maybe it'll get nerfed someday. It has now been 3 months since Destiny launched, and it's time for the first expansion, The Dark Below. This trailer comes out and everyone is excited about the massive pit on the moon, the new boss Crota, and the promise of new content. There's a new vendor in the tower named Eris Morn who is handling the new story and giving out bounties and loot. The story consists of only 4 missions, but they are pretty interesting and they're definitely higher quality than some of the vanilla story missions. The Undying Mind and the Will of Crota are 2 new strikes which still follow the same formula as other Destiny strikes, but it's good to have more strikes to play. There are also 3 new Crucible maps, so we now have a more respectable total of 15. Something players are immediately noticing is that vendors are now giving out level 31 gear, which instantly makes level 30 gear from the Vault of Glass completely worthless. We basically just spent 3 months grinding extremely hard to get max level gear, just for it to all be sunset and made completely obsolete. We also have to buy an upgrade from Xur and then re-level every single exotic if we want them to be max level. So a lot of people are upset about the ridiculous amount of grind required just to keep the things that we already had. It seems like the most significant piece of content they're adding this expansion is the Crota's End raid. The hive enemies in the raid feel really different from the Vex in the Vault of Glass. The raid is a ton of fun, and it is proof that Bungie is able to replicate the success that they found in the Vault of Glass. The raid also drops some insane loot like the Black Hammer, an insanely powerful sniper that generates infinite ammo out of thin air if you hit your headshots. Unfortunately, this expansion doesn't seem to address many of the core issues that we have with the game. The story is still pretty short, boring, and lacks sophistication. Players are extremely hungry for more cutscenes so that we can learn more about the story of the Destiny universe.
But if there's anything you want the absolute most, it's more storytelling. Yet again, the Grimoire arts are super interesting. Put it in the game.
Most of us are assuming that The Dark Below was mostly developed before the game launched, so there wasn't really time for Bungie to make any significant changes in reaction to our feedback. However, there is one huge quality of life improvement. You can now buy planetary materials at the tower. Gone are the days of spending 5 hours running around to patrol just to upgrade a single weapon. A few weeks later, players are still dissatisfied that The Dark Below hasn't addressed the problems with the game, but we're starting to appreciate some of the updates that the expansion has brought. There's a complete vendor refresh, meaning that there is plenty of exciting new loot to chase, including stuff like the Longbow Synthesis, the Plug 1, and the Badger CCL. There's also 4 new exotics and 9 new exotic armor pieces. Not bad. Oh, and there's also a Sparrow. The EV30 Tumbler is the first ever Sparrow with the ability to perform tricks, and it's a complete cure to everybody's boredom. Something incredible just happened. The legend himself has just beat Crota solo, completely without a fire team. Given that raids are designed for 6 people, most of us just assumed that soloing one would be impossible. However, now that Crota has been soloed, people are starting to realize that he isn't exactly that difficult, especially for a full fire team. There's even a new game-breaking glitch where unplugging your Ethernet cable from your console will make Crota just surrender and stay kneeling, giving players a free kill. As time goes on, people are still continuing to find more and more cheesy ways to complete each encounter in this raid, and it's starting to become somewhat of a drag. An entire roadmap for years and years of future Destiny content just got leaked by some guy on an Italian Destiny forum. Speculation is running rampant as everyone dissects this new information. People think that Comet is supposed to be an absolutely massive expansion taking place on a hive ship that will include multiple new subclasses, abilities, and weapons. Of course, there's no way to 100% confirm the validity of these leaks, but this is giving everyone hope for the future of the franchise. A few months have gone by and things are starting to feel really slow. There really hasn't been any new content in a while, so players are kinda having to make up their own content in order to find something to do. After what feels like an eternity, it's now April, and something is going on with Bungie's website. It's April 14th, 2015, and a Destiny update has just introduced a very interesting new world event. Fallen from the House of Wolves are randomly appearing on Earth, Venus, and the Moon, and if you defeat several waves of enemies, a special bounty target will spawn with a final wave. Defeating this final wave grants a buff called Ether Key, and this allows you to unlock a chest. The chest is really rewarding and provides legendary engrams, destination materials, and potentially a mysterious treasure key. We don't know what the treasure keys are for, but we do know that they will unlock something important in Destiny's next expansion, the House of Wolves. With the expansion just around the corner, this event has really built up a lot of hype for all of the new content that is about to hit us. But first, I'd like to tell you guys about Project Orochi because they just launched a special collection of Destiny-inspired hoodies and t-shirts. Project Orochi is a clothing brand inspired by Japanese mythology and art, and sometimes they also include subtle references to games like Destiny. We actually worked together to bring you guys a custom design inspired by my favorite Destiny class, the Hunter. Available on both hoodies and tees, the design goes on the back with the Orochi branding on the front. Also included in the Destiny collection is the Blam design. They were kind enough to send these out for me to try, and I can promise you the quality is great. These are not those low-quality prints that start to fall off after a couple washes. They also have stuff inspired by games like Apex Legends, For Honor, Ghost of Tsushima, and honestly guys, these all look amazing. The Warden from For Honor is probably my favorite. There's also plenty of stuff not related to games. They have free shipping if you live in North America, so click the link in the video description and use code SHADOW for 10% off. Also follow the Project Orochi Instagram because they do giveaways and provide updates about cool new releases. Massive thanks to Project Orochi for sponsoring this video, and I hope you guys enjoy whatever you decide to pick up. It's May 2015, and the House of Wolves expansion just dropped. Although players are extremely disappointed that there isn't a new raid, it looks like this expansion is going to be delivering a ton of content, and everyone is extremely excited. Players are immediately diving into the 5 new story missions and discovering a noticeable improvement over previous story missions. The narrative work in this expansion definitely feels a lot more polished and interesting. Upon completing these missions, players are being rewarded with a brand new type of weapon, the sidearm. Sidearms are close-range, rapid-fire weapons that utilize special ammo. Sidearms are cool and all, but what we're really excited about are the quality of life updates that have arrived with the House of Wolves. Perhaps the most significant one is the Etheric Light system. This allows us to ascend any item up to max level, so now every single activity in the game is relevant again, most notably the Vault of Glass. Another new system players are enjoying is weapon reforging. If you take your new weapons to the gunsmith, you can essentially re-roll them with a fresh set of perks. Perhaps the most relevant piece of new content is the Prison of Elders, a 3-player PvE activity where you progress through 4 levels with unique bosses. We learned that those mysterious treasure keys from the world event are actually used to get loot here in the Prison of Elders. The final boss, Skolas, is incredibly overtuned and is extremely difficult to beat. Many players are even saying this is the hardest PvE content the game has ever seen. We also get a new location called The Reef. This is a social space with vendors including Varix, Petra, and Brother Vance, the last of which is about to become extremely important over the weekend.
Come, test yourself in the trials. Find the way through the darkness.
Fast forward to Friday, and the very first Trials of Osiris has just begun. Everyone is hyped, loading into the Burning Shrine with ambitions of stacking up some wins on their card and getting the sweet new armor set and the Trials auto rifle, the Summoner. The meta in Trials is the Wild West. Every game is absolutely dominated by hand cannons, and the Thorn and the Last Word are the undisputed kings of PvP. Thorn can 2-tap with its burn ticking for a ridiculous 7 damage, and Last Word is hitting absurd 111 damage headshots, also giving it the ability to 2-tap. Hawkmoon is another ridiculously strong hand cannon that can 2-tap, and sometimes even 1-tap if you get really lucky, but it's only available for PlayStation players. Even though some are frustrated by this hand cannon insanity, Trials is a smashing success. This is the first time that PvP has really felt like it matters in the game, and literally everyone is jumping in to try it out regardless of their skill level. Those lucky enough to achieve a flawless victory are granted access to the Lighthouse, a brand new social space that is only accessible for people who have 9 wins and 0 losses on their Trials cards. The coveted golden chest and its amazing loot are extremely alluring. Adept weapons and special emblems are letting players show off their achievement in style. The loot and excitement are drawing so much attention to this mode that a mind-blowing 3,798,561 matches of Trials are played on this very first weekend. Destiny begins to become extremely popular on Twitch, as everyone wants to see people achieve flawless and potentially get a shot at a carry. A few months go by and things have started to settle down, but players are still excited to hop into Trials every weekend. On the other hand, the Prison of Elders is becoming extremely repetitive at this point, so it's not really as exciting as it was when it first came out. Overall though, there is a bit of a drought going on right now, and some people are taking a break as we wait for Destiny's next major expansion.
His name is Oryx, the Taken King. And he's coming for you, Guardian.
Bungie is revealing The Taken King at E3 2015 with a major trailer and some interviews with the developers. Players can instantly tell that this is going to be a massive expansion for the game, unlike anything we have ever seen. New subclasses, new exotics, new locations, new PvP maps, new strikes, new everything. This trailer made it clear that The Taken King is going to be amazing. It's August 14th, 2015. Xur is selling the almighty Galahorn for the first time since that infamous second week. The news is absolutely breaking the internet as everyone rushes to get this absolutely iconic weapon.
Yahoo, it's a no-brainer. Buy it now. Buy it before it gets nerfed so you can feel the full power of Destiny's most coveted rocket launcher.
This whole thing is pretty exciting, but players are still waiting with bated breath for Destiny's next expansion. As Bungie continues to drop little showcases of what is to come, everyone's anticipation for next month is at an all-time high. September 15th, 2015. The Taken King releases, and it's a smashing success. Everyone is jumping into the new expansion and finding that the hype that has been building for the last few months was not unwarranted. The immediately noticeable thing is the story. The narrative about Oryx, the cutscenes, and the character development is much more interesting and a massive improvement over year one. Ever since the launch, everyone has been begging for more interesting storylines and cinematic cutscenes, and The Taken King has finally delivered. The final story mission in particular really stands out. This is by far the coolest boss entrance that we have seen so far. The battle with Oryx actually feels like it matters, and it's exciting, unlike many of the past missions that had a monotonous objective like defend your ghost. For the first time ever, it's feeling like Destiny is massively improving. The main new location is the Dreadnought, a spacefaring fortress ship filled with secrets, world bosses, and a new activity called the Court of Oryx. It is arguably the coolest location in the game so far, and it definitely feels the most complete and full of important things to do. The Taken, the first new enemy type since launch, feel really different than anything we've seen so far, and they're breathing new life into the PvE combat experience. Similar to the House of Wolves, the Taken King has introduced a new weapon type, the Sword. Players are praising these weapons for how fun and intuitive they are to use, and it's safe to say they have instantly become fan favorites. Every new class now has an additional subclass. Night Stalkers got introduced for Hunters, Stormcallers got introduced for Warlocks, and Sunbreakers got introduced for Titans. These really feel like the next generation of subclasses, and they're extremely powerful. It feels amazing for every class to now have 3 subclasses, finally making it so that each class has access to every elemental damage type. After a few days of this expansion, the greatest realization that players are having is that the Taken King has touched nearly every facet of the game and improved it in a truly meaningful way. There are 17 brand new exotic weapons and 18 exotic armor pieces that have been added to the game. Infusion now exists, allowing us to level up our stuff instead of replacing it. Vault space has doubled. There are over 100 new legendary weapons. The quest system was overhauled in a major way. You can now turn in bounties while in your menu instead of traveling all the way to the tower or the reef to speak to the vendor. For the very first time, there's a way to keep track of your exotic items. There are now kiosks in the tower where you can reclaim exotics after you dismantle them. In the past, if you dismantled an exotic, it was gone forever and you'd have to re-earn it. Similarly, there are additional kiosks for emblems, shaders, sparrows, ships, and emotes. This is a huge quality of life update. Keeping literally everything in your inventory or in your vault was an unbelievable hassle in year 1. Perhaps the most monumental overhaul that is being universally praised is the new light leveling system. Players can now reach level 40 purely through experience, and your light level is now the average of all of your weapons and armor. The reason why this new light system is amazing is because light level will now steadily go up as you get new gear. In the past, when the max level was 30, for example, there would be huge jumps in how powerful your Guardian became because each level would make you like 30% more powerful. Ghosts are also getting some major updates that are much appreciated. There used to be only one ghost, but now there are many different shells with tons of bonuses and stats that make your ghost actually matter. The same is now true for class items as they now have a defense stat. Even just a day or 2 into the Taken King, players are overwhelmed by how amazing this expansion is. The game is thriving. It's a breath of fresh air for the player base, and everyone is breathing a deep sigh of relief. Bungie has listened. It's actually incredible how many of the problems we had in year 1 that were just resolved completely on a single day. Of course, nothing is perfect, and people do still have some complaints. All year 1 content, including all weapons and armor, is now completely irrelevant, which kinda sucks considering that we spent endless hours grinding it. But the thing is, it's mostly okay because there's just an overwhelming amount of new stuff that's making us forget what we lost and embrace the new Destiny. A few days later, it's time for the new raid, King's Fall. Since this raid is releasing just 3 days after the expansion, nobody really knows what they're doing, and very, very few players have made the sufficient raid preparations. Everyone is scrambling to just figure out the encounters, and there are several teams in the race for World's First. Even as the first few teams are making their way through the raid, something feels different. Mechanics actually matter, the enemies are threatening, and there is an epic scale to the raid that just sets it apart from its predecessors. Of course, this is partially because people are underleveled and nobody knows the optimal weapons yet, but this raid feels more difficult than Crota in a good way. As teams reach the final boss room for the first time, nobody is prepared for what happens next.
Okay, nope.
Oryx is a pretty difficult boss, and it's taking teams hours to figure it out. But finally, after 7 hours total in the raid, this happens. As more and more people complete the raid in the following days, King's Fall is unanimously dubbed the best raid in Destiny history. Everyone is commenting about how fun the encounters are and how cool the environment is, even though they're all constantly failing to jump onto these ships because there's no mantle mechanic, and they're getting absolutely decimated by this wall that pushes you off into the void below. Just a few days after the raid, players are starting to notice something very odd going on within a daily heroic story mission. The Ghost now has a new voice line that says, as you go off of the normal path, you take this elevator up to a fallen ship that now has a new area opened up. A few seconds later, you encounter some Taken invading the moon. Varix tells you that this ship is out of the Fallen's control and that you should clear out all of the Taken. A strange timer pops up, telling you that you have 10 minutes to complete this objective. This mission is not easy at all, but those who are skilled enough to make it to the final room find a big Taken boss named Drivix. If you manage to clear every single enemy, including the boss, it happens.
Taken will not rest. We'll claim every
A secret exotic named Black Spindle is awarded. The news of this secret mission and secret exotic is absolutely breaking the internet. Completely secret missions in online multiplayer games basically don't exist, so this is a completely new concept that has everyone intrigued. Just like its predecessor, the Black Hammer, this sniper is an absolute beast for clearing out PvE content. If you hit 3 headshots, it instantly refills the entire magazine from reserves, letting you deal massive damage and never reload. This weapon instantly becomes renowned in the Destiny community as millions of players jump into the mission and get their very own Black Spindle. A few weeks into the Taken King, it's really evident that this expansion has substantially improved the core of Destiny. It was not just designed to generate hype, it was designed to address the core issues of the game and make it enjoyable for months to come. The core activities, being Crucible and Strikes, got some massive updates that make them playable and interesting again. There are 4 new strikes that actually have some mechanics and are a lot better than the older strikes. In addition, 3 of the older strikes are now infected with the Taken. This really makes Destiny feel like an evolving world, which is ultimately Bungie's goal. As for PvP, we got an astounding 8 Crucible maps, 3 new Crucible modes, and a slew of sandbox changes that are making PvP feel completely different than it did in Year 1. These investments into the core activities in the game are definitely giving the Taken King some longevity. PvP is easily the most replayable activity in Destiny, and all of these new maps and modes are making it feel fresh, even months after the expansion released. Another massively successful addition is strike-specific loot. Each strike now has a piece of loot that can only be acquired from that strike. This loot is also thematically paired to each strike, so for the first time it actually feels like you're looting the strike and taking the enemy's stuff. For example, these Scion cloaks are acquired by defeating the Scion bosses in the Dust Palace. Popular weapons like Grasp of Malak are also dropping from these strikes, making them relevant and actually replayable. You really gotta grind for a while if you want to get a perfect roll on one of these weapons. The treatment of the core playlists in the Taken King is amazing, and it's overwhelmingly popular among the player base. Everyone loves that they have a reason to play Strikes and PvP, and it's giving us something to do while we wait for future updates. As time goes on, players are starting to discuss one of the more controversial additions to the game, the Eververse Store. Along with its currency called Silver, Eververse allows players to spend real-life money to purchase emotes within the game. This is the first presence of microtransactions in Destiny, and some players are understandably skeptical and afraid that the game might become pay-to-win. However, since it's limited to just emotes so far, it doesn't seem to be too much of a problem. There's another thing that's keeping people interested and logging in every week called Arms Day. There's a new system where the gunsmith offers weekly orders where you can request packages in order to get certain unique weapons. These weapons each have some unique quality to them, which makes them sought after for one reason or another. Arms Day is also nice because it gives the gunsmith an actual function other than just being a place to buy basic materials. Despite the strong core activities, as time goes by, it's becoming clear that we are entering a content drought. Bungie announces that they are shifting away from DLCs and towards events, and this means there will not be any expansions this winter or spring. This is pretty disappointing for players who were expecting upcoming expansions, but at least the events are giving people something to look forward to. October 2015 rolls around and there's a brand new event in the tower called the Festival of the Lost. This Halloween-themed event is hosted by Eva Levante and is bringing us new masks, quests, emotes, and some surprise tower decorations. This insane-looking blue skull mask is by far the most sought-after item in this event. Unfortunately, the loot is obtained from these ridiculous RNG loot boxes, and some of the loot is exceedingly rare. Since these loot boxes can also be purchased with real money, some people are spending quite a lot of cash, and this event has quickly gotten the nickname of Festival of the Cost. The content drought continues, but Destiny is set to reveal some new content at the PlayStation Experience 2015 event in December. The time finally comes, and they reveal Sparrow Racing League, a 3-week competitive racing experience. This is instantly far more interesting and popular than Festival of the Lost, and it has arrived complete with new sparrows, shaders, and even armor being available for players to earn through a record book. Overall, this event is pretty well received, and we're happy to have something to do. Racing around on the tracks with 6 other players is fun and unlike anything else in Destiny, but heading into the new year, the event ends and we have resumed the dreaded content drought. As time drags on, players are starting to take breaks from the game. The Taken King brought such a massive influx of new content, but now that it has been a few months, most players have finished the bulk of the content and they don't really have much to do. People are getting a little bit desperate. We don't even have private matches or any type of custom environment where we can mess around. Will we even get a new expansion this year? When is Destiny 2 coming? Nobody knows. It's now February, and we're witnessing perhaps the most irrelevant new content drop of all time. The Crimson Days has delivered a 2v2 PvP mode named Crimson Doubles. It has a strange feature where if your teammate dies, you get a buff called Broken Heart until your teammate comes back. There are a few random cosmetics, and the tower has a new look for the duration of the event, but overall, the event is not doing much to combat the extreme burnout that most players are feeling. People had hoped that these seasonal events would actually have some substance, but it's now becoming clear that they are pretty gimmicky, and players aren't really interested. April finally brings us something to be excited about. The much anticipated April update is here. The max light level has been increased to 335, there's a new revamped version of the Prison of Elders called the Challenge of Elders, and there's some revamped loot that people are pretty excited about. And the best part? It's completely free. When you think about it, it's kind of staggering how many weapons and exotics have returned in this mid-year update for the sweet price of $0. With a total of 40 returning items, these new additions are definitely mixing up the Year 2 sandbox. Some particularly notable weapons include the Shadow Price, the LDR, and the Longbow Synthesis. Since these are obtained through the Vanguard and the Crucible, this is a pretty strong incentive to play those core activities even more. There's also some brand new armor sets, but one in particular is really catching everyone's attention. The Taken-themed Desolate armor looks absolutely amazing, and it can be obtained by opening mystery boxes called Sterling Treasure. You can get these by playing activities like Prison of Elders, and they can also be bought from the Eververse store with real money. Again, the continuing rise of microtransactions is annoying players. Even though these real money items are only cosmetics, that isn't stopping players from complaining all over the internet. These treasure boxes can also drop other armor that is compatible with a new cosmetic system called Chroma. These can be applied to select armor sets to give them a red, blue, yellow, or white glow. Pretty cool. Perhaps the best quality of life update that we're all happy about is one-to-one infusion. When you infuse something in the past, it would only level it up part of the way. It was so confusing that we even had to use a calculator to figure it out. Thankfully, infusing something will now fully level it up to the level of the infused item, making everything easier and less convoluted. Overall, people are pretty satisfied with this update. It was a much-needed stimulus that's revitalizing some interest in the game as we wait for Destiny's next big expansion. The content drought resumes, and we enter a pretty dark period of time. Months go by with literally nothing happening, and people are understandably pretty bored. There's also some pretty frustrating things going on within the game. For instance, the accuracy stat on most precision weapons is absolutely atrocious. People are starting to notice that hand cannons and scout rifles in particular are super inconsistent, and the bullets will just randomly miss. Other issues like awful lag and an assortment of glitches are making the gameplay experience less than ideal. But there is hope on the horizon. Destiny's next big DLC, Rise of Iron, will be arriving in September. Rise of Iron drops, and it's an utter disaster on day one. There are constant pop-ups of contacting Destiny servers and an onslaught of taper error codes. Literally nobody is able to play the game right now. There are even reports of people being stuck in the 300,000th place in the queue to log into the game. We know to expect a bit of instability on new Destiny releases, but this disastrous launch just takes it to a whole new level. We've known about Saladin and the Iron Banner for a long time, so this campaign really fills in some of the backstory surrounding him and the Iron Lords. Overall, the story is pretty good, but it's notably shorter and less extensive than the Taken King. Everyone playing Destiny at this point is pretty excited about several iconic exotics making their return. Most notably, Thorn and Galahorn are back. And although they aren't as overpowered as they once were, players are happy to be reunited with some of their favorite weaponry. One of the most interesting new things are the Iron Lord artifacts. These items provide unique bonuses that completely change how you play the game, and everyone wants to get their hands on them. From improving your radar to allowing you to reflect stuff with your sword, these artifacts are incredibly powerful. A cool quality of life artifact is the Memory of Yolder. It removes the sprint cooldown. Normally, there is an extremely annoying mechanic where if you stop sprinting, you can't start again for a few seconds. This absolutely sucks for anyone who wants to move around fast, especially in PvP, so we're pretty excited to finally have a way to avoid this mechanic. Rise of Iron has brought multiple new locations, including a brand new social space called the Iron Temple. There's some really cool things to do here, like climbing Fellwinter's Peak or ringing the bells in the right order for an achievement. There's also a previously blocked off area in the Cosmodrome called the Plaguelands. This area looks amazing and has lava and Siva everywhere, but there aren't too many secrets or cool things to uncover. Within the Plaguelands, there's also the Archon's Forge, an arena with different tiers of difficulty and an especially notable fusion rifle reward, Saladin's Vigil. This expansion also seems to be reinforcing the concept of evolving Destiny over time. Lots of enemies and locations have been infused with Siva, which makes them feel fresh and new again. In addition to the new strike, 2 older strikes have been Sivified, also contributing to the concept of an evolving Destiny universe. Sepix Prime in particular is pretty popular among the community, especially with this new epic soundtrack that was actually made by a Destiny fan. 3 days after launch, it's time for the new raid, the Wrath of the Machine. Similar to the Taken King, players had a few days to prepare, and this time, hardcore teams took it pretty seriously. They leveled up so much to the point where the teams out-leveled the raid itself, giving them a hefty advantage. The first encounter is pretty straightforward, but people are immediately noticing the insane siege engine encounter coming up next. The fight takes place on top of the Cosmodrome wall. This is easily the most unique and arguably one of the coolest raid encounters we have ever seen. Getting to ride the siege engine, bust through some barricades, and then finally witness the entire thing plummet into the water below is unlike anything we've seen before, and players are loving it. As the first teams move on to the final boss, Axis, there's a lot of enemies, bombs, and buffs at play here, and it's pretty difficult to make heads or tails of any of it. After a while though, Clan Redeem accidentally discovers the main stun mechanic, and this seems to be a massive breakthrough. Soon after, their team, including Tfue, Modern Tryhard, and Error, take down Axis and secure the world's first raid completion with a total time of about 2 hours. The immediate reaction from the community is that the raid might not be so good considering how fast it was cleared, and some people are upset that it doesn't have the same epic scale as King's Fall. However, as more players get a chance to try the raid, everyone is beginning to appreciate it and its unique encounters, especially the Siege Engine and Axis, and it's generally considered to be a great raid overall. As week 1 of the expansion comes to a close, it's clear that Rise of Iron has delivered, but just not maybe in the way players were expecting. Since the Taken King left the overall game in a really good state, Rise of Iron isn't really innovating too much or changing the core of the game. It is providing more of the same, which honestly is a pretty good thing. People are happy to finally return to the game after the content drought, and there's a ton of new stuff for everyone to sink their teeth into. Although Rise of Iron isn't quite as robust as Taken King, it's still a very substantial expansion that brings a lot to the table. PvP players are really happy because we finally got what we've been requesting for years, private matches. You can now go into a private match whenever you want to test new items, mess around with your friends, and just generally have a fun time. PvP also got 4 new maps, a mode called Supremacy, and Iron Banner got a complete overhaul to make it more interesting. The Crucible is generally in a pretty good state after all of these additions. No expansion would be complete without loot, and it's clear that the Rise of Iron has done a pretty good job in this category. There are 5 new exotic weapons and armor pieces in addition to a vendor refresh and a world loot refresh. This means that basically every activity of the game is dropping brand new loot, making the loot feel fresh and meaningful. Vendors are selling new weapons like the Palindrome and the Clever Dragon, making them really relevant for everyone. Strikes continue to have the insanely amazing and popular strike-specific loot system, but now it's even better with the Skeleton Key system that allows you to target farm and reliably get the exact loot that you want. With new additions like the Devil's Dawn Sniper Rifle, strike-specific loot is more appealing than ever. Another thing players are discovering is the new ornament system. This allows for further customization of certain armor sets and exotic weapons to drastically change their appearance, and so far it is very well received. Giving a completely new appearance to certain exotics is pretty cool, especially if their base model was not particularly appealing. This ornament system also applies to the brand new Trials of Osiris cat armor. This set is popular to begin with, but when you equip the prestigious Flawless ornaments to make the armor glow, it looks absolutely amazing. It is perhaps the most coveted armor set in the game right now. Unfortunately, there is something absolutely plaguing the Trials of Osiris. The Memory of Scori is an artifact that rewards bonus super energy if you stand near a teammate who has their super, so Trials has devolved into just huddling together and waiting until you get a super. This is probably the worst possible meta, and it's extremely painful to play, but people are still enduring to get that cat armor and glowy ornaments. October rolls around, and with it, another version of the Halloween event, Festival of the Lost. This event is basically the same as last year, so it is being received about as you might expect. However, there is one shader called Super Black, which is extremely popular among the community, so at least there's something that people really want to grind for. It's the holiday season again, and this time the Dawning event has brought some random free presents in the tower, the return of Sparrow Racing League with 2 new maps, and a brand new strike scoring system. Overall, this holiday event feels a whole lot more interesting than the past ones, and it comes with new ornaments, sparrows, chromas, and a ton of sparrow horns. The best part is, these things can all be realistically acquired without spending $1 million on Eververse. 2 strikes have been updated with new mechanics in Siva, and the strike scoring system comes complete with medals and an on-screen tally to track the points you rack up. Overall, this Dawning event actually has some substance and players are really happy. However, some were hoping that the Strike scoring system would include in-game leaderboards and competitions to see who could get the highest score, but unfortunately, it looks like this isn't going to happen. As time goes on though, everyone's attention is shifting to the next big content update. Age of Triumph is free and is immediately super popular among the community. Every single raid has been updated to be max light level and now has tons of new loot, including these absolutely amazing sets of ornaments. These sets actually look like they thematically belong in the raids they come from, and the community has quickly decided that this is the best looking armor the game has ever seen. The raids also include new exotic ornaments and exotic primary weapons like Fatebringer Adept with elemental burns. Raids aren't the only thing getting a facelift with this update. Strikes now have this Daybreak mode, which is kind of like Mayhem. With tougher enemies and increased recharge rate across the board, these ability spam simulators are just a ton of fun. A handful of strikes also got updated with new mechanics, graphics, and rewards, further demonstrating Bungie's commitment to keeping the core playlists interesting. The Age of Triumph has also brought a massive new record book with brand new rewards for veteran players, and everyone is hard at work completing and unlocking all of the pages. Destiny feels like it has reached an absolute peak. Almost every single activity that has ever been in the game feels relevant, rewarding to play, and worth your time. Strikes, PvP, Challenge of the Elders, raids, and even weekly story missions have all been revamped with new loot and new incentive to make the entirety of Destiny feel important for players. However, there is a new update that has become pretty unpopular in PvP. Special ammo has now become absurdly rare because you don't spawn with any, and the resulting shift in the meta has basically ruined the PvP experience. The optimal way to play the game now involves using sidearms because they're the only special weapon that still spawns with ammo, and then stuff like No Land Beyond, a primary sniper, and Icebreaker, which regenerates ammo for free. Since sticky grenades also one-shot and basically lock onto players with ridiculous tracking, they have also risen to the top of the meta and they're unbelievably frustrating to play against. Even though PvP players are struggling, the overall game is in a really good place as we move forward through 2017. Bungie just dropped the Rally the Troops worldwide revealed trailer for Destiny's sequel, Destiny 2. The video is trending on YouTube, and as it picks up millions and millions of views, everyone is talking about Destiny 2, not just Destiny 1 fans. As we get our first look at the game, we're introduced to the main bad guy, Gull, and we get to see some familiar faces like Cayde and Zavala. As more and more info starts to come out about Destiny 2, hype is reaching unprecedented levels. The Destiny 2 gameplay reveal is our first glimpse into how the in-game stuff actually looks, and it looks insane. Fans and content creators alike have extremely high hopes for this game.
Destiny has potential. It always has, since the launch. Destiny 2 is the final chance to prove to the public that Destiny is worth their time.
Goes the weasel.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, where everything is all fun and games until it isn't. So it's been a bit of a hot minute since we last talked about spoopy, scary animatronics on this channel. Over a year, in fact. It's a long time, especially when you consider that some other channels out there are able to get like a video a week out of that sort of stuff. I mean, who do you think we are? Game Theory? That said, there is a series that I've been wanting to talk about that scratches the same animatronic itch. Harmony and Horror, created by the incredibly talented animator Baddington right here on YouTube.com. Now, if you've watched any analog horror before or you follow our theories covering them, you know the drill. It's the 80s, everything is on low-quality VHS camera footage, and things that are normally fun, in this case toys, are getting corrupted, turning scary, attacking nearby security guards. Man, this really is like FNAF, isn't it? I just can't escape it. Another thing Harmony and Horror borrows from its FNAF father is a complicated timeline. In classic analog horror fashion, the uploads here aren't happening in chronological order, which means that putting together a timeline of events gets challenging. We see the same event from multiple different perspectives. Those uploads are happening more than a year apart. Characters are pulling double duty. There is a lot of mystery here. What's more, it appears that the story of Harmony and Horror is being told to us through literal tapes in universe, with most of the uploads starting as a VHS tape that gets put into a VCR, meaning that there is a meta layer on top of all of this. So with my FNAF timeline finally done and written, I wanted to sit down and put together another animatronic story, one that's much scarier and isn't afraid to go darker. That said, before we dive in, I do want to say that this theory is only going to be talking about Season 1. Yeah, Season 2 is already underway, but considering how much there is to cover in Season 1, we wouldn't be doing this series justice if we tried cramming it all together. So do me a favor, try not to spoil anything from Season 2 down in the comments. We'll be saving that one for another video. Without any further ado, dim the lights and hug your Stitch buddy close. You're gonna need him. It's time to tell the tragic tale of a family that's been broken apart by greed and ultimately held together, reluctantly, by Satan himself. Our story follows the Greywinder family. Martin, his wife Gloria, and their 3 children, Thomas, Macy, and their infant girl, Ava. Martin and his brother Arthur co-found a toy manufacturing company called M&A Harmony Toys, along with an entertainment production company called M&A Harmony Play Productions. The M&A here obviously standing for the brothers, Martin and Arthur. Now, sadly, things don't seem to be going too well for the both of them. In the video, Are You Happy?, we see the screen briefly glitch to reveal a newspaper clipping reviewing one of their toys, Henry the Puppet Doll. And the criticism isn't kind, saying that the toy feels more dead than alive. This infuriates the prideful and jealous Martin, starting an obsession to make the most lifelike toys imaginable by incorporating parts of real-life creatures.
You think that killing it and turning it into one of those monstrosities that I said would be a bad idea is the way to fix it?
Arthur begs him to stop, but Martin refuses, partly out of obsession, partly out of pride, but mostly because Arthur is having an affair with Martin's wife, Gloria.
I knew what was going on between you two. But it's not like that.
With his life crumbling around him, Martin becomes angry and violent, especially towards his son Thomas.
My daddy loves me. He loves me so. Even if he beats me though.
It gets bad enough that the police eventually have to intervene, as we see in the video Rebirth.
Know why you're here today? Does it have anything to do with me? Okay. Yes, sir? No.
By 1982, Martin's become a full-on murderer. We see this in the videos Are You Happy? And What Went Wrong, 2 archives of the local children's show that Martin produces through Harmony Play Productions. And what they depict is, it is truly disturbing. In the videos, 2 children and their dog Bonzo visit a traveling toy maker in the hopes that he'll make them the perfect toy. The toy maker agrees, but is sad because he can't make the toys more lifelike.
My toys can blink, but they can't see. My toys can walk, but they can't dance. My toys can eat, but they can't taste.
Can't make the toys more lifelike, huh? It's almost like art imitates life. Regardless, the kids offer to help the toy maker out, so he sends them out on a series of fetch quests. This includes bringing back a needle and thread, paint and fabric, and perhaps most strangely, their dog, Bonzo.
What do you need him for?
The toy needs to be happy. Don't you want it to be happy?
This then becomes his first monstrous creation, a giant living version of Stitch Buddy with the spirit of the dog inside of it.
Come on.
Large, dangerous, and obedient, Martin loves his creation, so he continues. The final ingredient he needs for their perfect toy is their voice, asking the kids to repeat after him. But before we hear what he's saying, the tape is interrupted by a federal warning telling viewers that if any of the original audio or video from this section of the broadcast remains, they must close their eyes, cover their ears, and turn their head around 180 degrees. Public access television ain't great, but can't be that bad, right? Towards the end of the tape, we're shown pictures of several kids who died in 1982, the same year as this particular broadcast. Under each picture is the child's cause of death, one that came from a seizure while watching his favorite show, the other whose head was facing backwards. Both of these are heavily implying that whatever happened to these kids was caused by the cut part of the broadcast. The whole event would eventually come to be known as the Harmony Broadcast Incident. But evil tapes, that's only the beginning of Martin's descent into depravity. Around the same time, Amy Wilson, Martin's intern at M&A Harmony Toys, goes missing. And here's the thing, this isn't the first time we hear of this character either. One of those pictures of people who died in 1982 was labeled Amy Wilson, but she wasn't the victim of some TV broadcast gone wrong. She was murdered by Martin. Her picture says she stopped screaming when her spine came out. Whew, that is just a special layer of dark. And it would seem like the Harmony Broadcast Incident was Martin's confession to this particular crime. You see, when the boys from the cartoon go to collect the needle and thread, they get it out of a body bag with a human corpse inside of it. Just look at that face. It is floppy and structureless, almost like its skull and spine were removed, just like Amy Wilson. Hold on, going from cuckolded husband and jealous toy maker to serial murderer? I mean, that is a massive leap of escalation. Why? Why did these kids die? Why did Martin kill Amy Wilson? Why is he resorting to releasing a creepy, evil video broadcast if he's just obsessed with creating lifelike toys? The answer, my friends, is Satan. The devil literally made him do it. Right at the beginning of the video, Are You Happy? We get this line.
Andrew, you interrupted my dream. I was dreaming about a man dressed in red with ice cream cones on his head. That's ridiculous, Marcus.
A man dressed in red with ice cream cones on his head. Ice cream cones or horns. Later, in What Went Wrong, we actually see the silhouette of this very man. It's a figure that's so intimidating, it scares the toy maker.
Please, I just need more time. You just need to give me more time. You just need to give me more time. No.
Not only that, but we see evidence of demonic rituals happening outside of that particular video as well. In She Can't Sleep, we see another toy, the singing Sophia doll hidden inside of a closet surrounded by candles and a crucifix on the wall. Almost looks like some sort of rituals happening. We see more of those candles lined up in the toy maker shop during the Harmony broadcast incident. And in the video Good Boy, we get confirmation as to what's happening. Martin is killing things and then performing satanic rituals to bind souls to the various toys around the toy shop. His first successful victim is the dog Bonzo, who gets fused into the giant animalistic Stitch Buddy toy.
Where the hell am I?
The part that was clipped from the Harmony broadcast incident, yep, it had to have been some sort of demonic incantation that certain viewers at home felt the need to repeat. He clearly made a deal with the devil to make his toys more lifelike, and all of it for perfection and control. Especially control. He really likes that feeling, and it's something that we're gonna watch him assert on his family over and over again across the next 4 videos. Frustrated at the lack of control that he has over his family and his wife, Martin breaks. As he puts his daughter Macy to sleep, Martin seems distracted and sad, refusing to sing her a lullaby. But he promises to, quote, make her a doll that can sing, a promise that he will literally make true later that night. He reminds Macy that he and Mommy have a business meeting in the morning and that she might not be seeing her mother for a while. But clearly there is no business meeting here. Instead, Martin confronts Gloria about her infidelity, and in the video She Can't Sleep, we hear the aftermath of that conversation. Gloria frantically enters Macy's room, waking her before the pair are attacked by Stitch Buddy. After a glitch, we hear Gloria hiding Macy before Martin ultimately finds and kills Gloria. Martin, though, far from deterred, continues to hunt. He moves on to Macy, Thomas, and Ava, binding each to a different toy in the M&A roster. Thomas becomes Henry the Puppet, Macy becomes Sophia the Singing Marionette, and Ava the Baby becomes, well, this thing. Now with control over his family, Martin seems happy again. With a pep in his step, he introduces a new mascot named the Ice Cream Man to his brother Arthur, believing that this character is going to be a hit for the company. But Arthur is done. Unaware of the previous night's rampage, Arthur reveals that he's talked to Gloria and that she and the kids are leaving with him. At least until Martin gets his act together. That's when Martin reveals that he's already fixed their quote-unquote little problem.
I don't know nothing. Hey! I fight! I didn't do nothing.
Interestingly, this is exactly what the toy maker says during the Harmony broadcast incident. At this point, Martin has basically become the character.
I am not going to let anyone
Copeland's men got to it before I did.
including you!
Using his demonic rituals, Martin then fuses his brother into the Ice Cream Man suit. But even though he's gone, parts of Arthur's soul still shine through. In a scene split across 2 separate videos released a year apart, we see that Arthur, in the form of the Ice Cream Man, forces Martin to pay for his crimes. Legitimately, it's a cool creative choice, but as you might suspect, this is far from the end of Martin. He suffers the exact same fate as his family, his body disappearing and his soul becoming trapped inside yet another animatronic, toy, puppet thing. Everything's been used! I suppose you could say he always comes back. This time, though, we're dealing with the creepy clown known as the Jester. At this point, the outside world considers the Grey Winders to have vanished. We see a news report in the video Local 13 detailing a police raid on the Grey Winder household. While they find no signs of Martin or his family, they do discover the bodies of 8 other victims, with their limbs cut off and their skin empty, presumably the people that he killed to make his first wave of monstrosities. With the Grey Winders now gone, some other corporate entity swoops in and buys the business, taking over the M&A Harmony toy store and continuing to sell the evil dolls. So is that the end? Obviously not. We find out exactly where the family is these days thanks to the the title of the next video, which is this. If you're an ARG veteran, you'll recognize this as an encrypted sentence in a simple Caesar cipher. If you shift each of the letters in the title back by one, it reads, they are inside the building. Their souls are still trapped there, inside the toys, begging for release, bashing their heads against the wall in an attempt to escape. And bit by bit, they're losing themselves to whatever demonic curse that Martin cast on them. In I Want a Toy, we see the Henry puppet doll sing before breaking down as a literal demon crawls out of his head. In Don't Cry, if you refuse to sing with Sophia, her face opens up and a demonic tentacle comes out to attack the viewer. And in Goodbye My Loved Ones, Arthur's spirit straight up tells us that he doesn't have much time left. I don't have much time. But most interestingly, he asks the viewer to stop him. Stop him from what, exactly? From attacking and hurting innocent people. Several of the videos feature the toys at the M&A Harmony toy store coming to life, attacking the security guards, crawling through the vents to get to them. And one shot here features a grotesque pink monster. That right there, that is Arthur. That is what he's been cursed to become. And through it all, Martin's soul is still within the jester, haunting the store right alongside the rest of them, trapped in a nightmare of his own creation. Now, we could certainly leave things there, and we'd already have ourselves a tragic, compelling story. A man so obsessed with creating perfection that he ends up being the downfall of his own family. But we're not done yet. You'll notice that one member of the family avoided being stuffed into an animatronic suit, as it were. Martin's wife, Gloria. For whatever reason, she isn't transformed into a toy, and she isn't cursed in the same way as the rest of her family. So where then is she? She can't have been the only one to have escaped, right? Right. She's here too. Throughout all of the videos, if you pay attention, you'll notice a ghost appearing in the background of several shots. She appears in Are You Happy as a ghost lingering in the background. In Through Broken Windows, she's behind the image of her son. In Wake Up Bonzo, she's emerging from the shadows. In Henry.mp4, she's staring into the toy shop. And most importantly, in Goodbye Arthur, she's reaching a hand out and begging the viewer to come with me. But why? Why has she invaded these tapes, this archive of all of Martin's sins? Why is she breaking the fourth wall to tell us to come with her? Why is she talking to us? Well, it's because we are Martin. We are the jester. We are literally the bad guy of this story. Rewatching these tapes over and over and over, obsessing over the details of our life, trapped inside of this nightmare. At the top of the theory, I mentioned how most of the uploads in the series begin with a VHS tape being inserted into a VCR. What I didn't mention is that if you look closely, you can see the reflection of the character watching the tapes inside the television screen. That right there is a great detail. And whose reflection is staring back at us every time? Martin, the jester. He's watching the tapes. And Gloria is using the tapes to try and get through to him, to us. In the season 1 finale, Come Back to Me, Gloria's twisted face calms, the wide-eyed scream becoming a solemn sadness. It's here that she reveals that she was the one playing these tapes for us, showing us the story, begging Martin to see what he's done, how he's hurt the family, how they were all proud of him before his deal with the devil, how he can still come back to them and make things right. And for a minute, it seems like there might be hope. The beginning of this video reveals that the field from Rest Assured, where all his fears and regrets from his life can't hurt him, that was actually where he had his first date with Gloria, where they started their relationship, which led to their family. That's a place where he doesn't have to be the jester. He doesn't have to be the toy maker, or whatever his deal with the devil turned him into. But Martin can't come back. At least he doesn't want to. Whether it's because of his rage, or his regret, or his corruption, Martin is too far gone. He breaks the television and banishes Gloria's spirit as the screen shadow. So, there you have it. That's Harmony and Horror Season 1. Or, at least the best I can do at putting together this fragmented narrative into the heartbreaking story of a man's destructive need for perfection and control. As I mentioned before, Baddington has already started Season 2. So, if you want to get there before I do my next theory, go check it out. Link is down in the description below. And hey, if there are other little-known online series that you want me to check out, leave them down in the comments. I'm accepting all recommendations. Bonus points if there are no animatronics or possessed spirits. But hey, if you want to check out some more killer content, why don't you go check out our brand new Style Theory channel, all about fashion, beauty, and hygiene. That sounds a bit strange. Yeah, I get it. Seems like a weird subject to theorize about, but I promise that you're going to be surprised by what you find there. For example, have you ever wondered whether or not you could be allergic to color? Well, I was inspired to ask that very question from the Netflix series Wednesday. It's actually a much more interesting and complicated question than you might initially think. So go and check that video out if you're interested. Link is on screen right now. Or if you're looking for more animatronic adjacent horror or coverage of the Walton Files.
Hello, Mr. MatPath, sir. I'd like to be a theorist.
No offense, kid, but lots of people want to be theorists. What do you bring to the table?
Well, I have an allergy.
An allergy? How's that help?
It's an allergy to wrong theories.
Really? Bruce Willis's character was alive in The Sixth Sense. Belle was actually the beast all along, and the prince was the beauty. Sans is Ness. Ha! Internet, welcome to Style Theory, the show that's not afraid to ask the big questions, like what type of stitch is used on thing? Fun fact, by the way, there's actually more than one. Up there at the top of the hand, you can actually see that they were using a simple interrupted stitch, where each suture is tied off independently from the other, whereas the other stitching that you see on the hand appears to be a classic simple running suture. Both of them are using a non-absorbable synthetic suture, probably made of nylon, lest fan favorite the thing starts to fall apart at the seams when his sutures disintegrate. Oh, I'm sorry, you thought that we'd only cover clothing stitching on this channel? Oh, ye of little faith. Sometimes you just need to think outside of the box. Speaking of outsiders, Netflix decided to remind the world of the creepy, kooky, mysterious, and spooky Addams Family with their new show focused on the titular character, Wednesday. In the show, we follow Wednesday as she's forced to attend a new school, her parents' alma mater, Nevermore Academy. It's there that Wednesday's informed that she's expected to adhere to their school's uniform policy. Well, there's certainly a lot to talk about when it comes to style on this particular show. It's really good, actually. There was one exchange in particular that caught my attention.
Please excuse Wednesday. She's allergic to color.
What happens to you? I break out into hives and then the flesh goes off my bones.
Yikes! That would be an intense allergy. Now, obviously, this was meant to be a snarky joke, and later on in the series, we even see Wednesday interacting with color without melting like the bad guy in an Indiana Jones movie. But it did make me wonder, can you actually be allergic to color? Is there any way that this could be a real thing, or is this just another mystery from the dark mind of Wednesday Addams?
I was just working on my novel.
I'm sure this burning question's been keeping you awake at night, just like it did to me, so thank goodness we have ourselves a style channel now so we can answer it. Let's go, my fashionistas. Now, for those of you who are less familiar with Wednesday and her unique family, here's the rundown to catch you up. The Addams Family started as a cartoon for The New Yorker in 1938, back before dressing like a Hot Topic employee was considered a normal aesthetic for a 14-year-old. The Addams Family were built from the ground up to basically be the antithesis of the everyday American family at the time. While Americans in the 40s were contributing to the war effort and heading for the white picket fences of the suburbs, the Addams Family lived in a massive old dark house surrounded by a graveyard and perpetually dead trees. They found joy in the macabre and beauty in the weird, without caring what the outside world thought about them. Over the years, there have been various adaptations and interpretations of the family, and especially of Wednesday herself. In the 1964 live-action TV series, Wednesday was the younger sibling. In a different animated series, she's depicted as wearing pink and blue dresses instead of black. The colorless, more gothic style that we associate with Wednesday today was mostly originated by the 1991 and 93 movie classics, The Addams Family and Addams Family Values, which starred Christina Ricci as a torture-loving, deadpan Wednesday. This iconic depiction of the character led the way to the current color-intolerant version of Wednesday that we know today. But while being allergic to color might be on brand for her, is there any scientific basis to anything that she's saying? In the show, Wednesday says that she gets hives and the flesh peels off her bones, which sounds more like a strong acid than an allergy, but I think we can safely say skin irritation is big on her list. And interestingly, when it comes to allergies in general, she might not be that far off the mark. By way of a little background, an allergic response is one where your body's own immune system interprets something not harmful as actually being harmful. A little dust, some pollen, not things that really harm your body, but when you're allergic, your immune system sees those substances as germs instead of normal materials, and it sends out the big guns, your antibodies. Your antibodies trigger all kinds of allergic and inflammation responses, basically creating a big deal out of something that should be totally fine until it's gone. The more your body doesn't like whatever it is that you're allergic to, the stronger your reaction's gonna be. It can be as mild as your eyes turning red due to dust to something more extreme like full-on anaphylactic shock from coming into contact with peanuts. So how then can color cause the kind of allergic reaction that Wednesday describes? Well, to understand that, we need to look a little bit closer at the nature of color itself, because it's not all created equally. In the strictest sense, color is just light. When you see a rainbow out in the sky, you're seeing regular old light that's been broken across the entire spectrum. So we know that all of those colors are in there, they're just hidden. Or to put it more accurately, the colors in light have just been jumbled all together, and the mix that we see in the daytime is a mashup of all of them, which comes to our eyes as plain white light. White light, or just regular daylight, is a wave, a little squiggly line that goes up and down and hits our eyeballs all over the place. But look closer at the regular waves of visible light and you'll actually see that they're not all the same. Some of them have higher wavelengths and some of them have lower wavelengths. If your wavelengths get higher, that's where the waves are all stretched out and loosey-goosey and the light turns red. Lower wavelength light is where the waves are all getting scrunched up and tight looking and the light turns blue and purple. All the other colors colors fall somewhere in the middle. When a specific wavelength hits our eye, our brain knows to interpret it as a color. So how then do we get different wavelengths hitting our eyes? Well, almost every object absorbs some wavelengths of light and bounces back others. It's the ones that bounce and ultimately hit our eyes that produce color. Take for instance that blue in our brand new Style Theory logo. Isn't it beautiful? Doesn't it make you want to hit the subscribe button so you can see it again and again and again? What was I saying? Oh yeah, our logo looks blue because it's mostly reflecting blue light into our eyes and absorbing all other colors. Leaves on trees, they absorb a whole bunch of light wavelengths, but not green. You get the idea. The color you see is basically the color that gets rejected from whatever you're looking at. When we see black, what we're really seeing is an object that's absorbing all the wavelengths of light, just sucking them all up in there until there's nothing left. When there are no wavelengths of light bouncing off an object, we don't get any waves entering our eyes, so our object looks like it has no color, black. And that idea right there should strike you as a little odd considering the topic for today's episode. Black clothing is absorbing all the colors of light. So technically by wearing black, Wednesday is wearing every color. Right off the bat, this seems to be contradicting the idea that she's allergic to color. Her all-black clothing literally absorbs all colors of light in the spectrum. If she were allergic to color, what she should really be wearing is white, a color that reflects all the wavelengths of visible light so it bounces off of her. But not only is she doing it wrong, so's the school. Her black-dominated wardrobe and the special uniform provided to her by the school for her condition are actually the single worst thing to give a person with color allergy. They're nothing but color, and that color is coming into direct contact with the allergic person's skin. Talk about a red flag. It's like taking someone allergic to bees and then making them join the beekeeping club without a protective suit.
The hive life isn't for everyone.
Okay, I hear you saying there's more to color than just light, especially when it comes to clothing. So maybe we just try a different approach. Most fabric doesn't magically come off a loom in all the colors of the rainbow. As most of us know, for clothes that have color, they first need to be dyed. And dyes open up a whole new closet of issues when we're talking about allergies. Textile dye dermatitis, which is the sciencey way of saying clothing dyed makes skin hurt, is more common than people think, and mostly that's just due to lack of awareness. When a piece of clothing makes you itch, we usually assume that it's just the texture of the fabric being used that's making you itchy. I know that I've never assumed that it was the fabric dyes, but very often that's the case. This happens when the water-soluble color dyes are separated from the fabric by sweating in your clothes. This causes the dyes to bleed out onto your skin, causing symptoms like dermatitis or inflammation of the skin. You might be thinking that's easy. I'll just wear black or white, and again, we need to reframe how we think about black and white as being without color. Let's just start with the most relevant color of black. Black isn't really a color that you can make a dye of, and most of the dyes that make black clothing are actually secretly a very dark blue, purple, or green. Dispersed blue 106 and 124, two dark blue dyes that are often used in making black linens, have some of the highest case rates of allergic reactions out there. So unlike our last case, this one actually gets Wednesday on two accounts. Not only is the black in her clothes not actually black, it's probably blue or green, she's also soaking in color every time she wears it, just marinating in color. So then, what about white? Well, most white fabric bases like cotton actually start off as a beige, and then they're heavily bleached to make them whiter before they're made into consumer goods. And bleach, just like fabric dye, is known to cause problems to people with sensitive skin, including contact dermatitis. This means that Wednesday, who throughout the show we see wearing black and white with zero issue, is not suffering from having skin-to-skin contact with colored dyes or even chemically treated white fabric. Everything we know about allergies, clothing, and how the two come together tells us that Wednesday is just lying so she can keep up the serial killer next door vibes while she goes to math class. So I guess we can now close the case on the mysterious color allergy. Unless, of course, there's another way to be allergic to color, but not necessarily because of your clothes. Most of our discussion so far has been based on the idea that color is light, and we talked about the idea of being allergic to different wavelengths of light individually, the ones that make the individual colors. But can you be allergic to light itself? Well, it turns out the answer is a resounding yes. But that still won't clear Wednesday's name in this case. Let me show you what I mean. You see, light is not just a wave of pretty colors, it's also waves of radiation. And like other types of radiation, it comes with its own set of dangers. You've probably put on sunscreen before, right? Sunscreen helps protect us from a type of light, UV or ultraviolet light, which also goes by its formal name, ultraviolet radiation. UV exposure can cause all types of different health risks. Sunburn, sun damage, like wrinkles or changing of skin texture, as well as more serious problems like skin cancer. It can even burn your eyes, which is why everyone always tells you not to stare into the sun. You hear that, Taylor Swift? Stop singing about staring into the sun. Go put back on your extremely expensive sunglasses. But yeah, okay, not rocket science that the sun can hurt your skin, but what does this have to do with allergies? Well, it turns out that you can actually be allergic to the sun. A sun allergy, which is actually a broad term covering several types of conditions, can be hereditary, meaning that you inherit it it from your parents, or it can just be triggered by other stimulus like medication. Whatever the condition, the reaction is usually the same, an itchy rash that forms on the skin after exposure to UV radiation. This rash can range from flushed skin and tiny bumps to full-on, wouldn't you know it, hives and blisters that could cause your skin to peel. Exactly like how Wednesday described her reaction to color.
I break out into hives and then the flesh dries off my bones.
Is this what Wednesday means when she says that she's allergic to color? Where she's actually allergic to the combined colors of light? Well, yes, this is actually the most plausible solution in the show. Take a look at what she wears throughout the series and we suddenly see a common theme: coverage. And Wednesday's not being modest here. We're just talking about a full-on protective coating of clothing. From the long sleeves and jackets to the pants and long skirts, turtlenecks and boots, Wednesday is covered from head to toe. Plus, dark clothing protects better against UV light than, say, the pastels of your roommate. While this can certainly be attributed to simply a style preference, it does fall in line with the precautions that someone with a major sun allergy could need to take, at least theoretically. If we look at the real-world cases of UV light allergies, we can see that the show has taken a number of creative liberties here. Real cases of UV allergy are actually extremely difficult to manage because, as you might imagine, UV light is pretty much everywhere. Well, yes, covering your body is a big part of managing the condition. People with the allergy often have a lot of extra freckles on their skin from past exposure. They also often have to wear special headgear with UV filters and solid coverage to avoid any kind of UV light hitting their faces, scalps, or eyes. Now look at Wednesday. We see from the outset that Wednesday has always worn full coverage clothing from the top of her neck to her feet, because if you really have UV allergies, you have to cover everything. Even in the instances where we do see Wednesday outdoors, it's either 1, at night when UV exposure is down, 2, wearing full-on headgear like when she's dressing up like a pilgrim, or 3, in a worst-case scenario, she's in a boating outfit that includes yet another turtleneck and full leather gloves. This even extends to her chosen extracurricular activities, beekeeping and fencing, which are just about the only 2 activities on the planet that involve full headgear and face coverings. Perfect for someone who wants to make sure that light isn't hitting their face even in their downtime. In fact, the only time that we see her arms exposed in the entire series is during an indoor dance that takes place at night, which would be consistent with someone who has a UV sensitivity. There you have it, friendos, just about the only explanation possible for how someone could be allergic to color and still be wearing all black. You're welcome, Netflix. You're welcome, Addams Family Canon, and you're welcome, Wednesday. Because here's the thing, is Wednesday probably just lying about this entire thing so she can keep her gothy wardrobe intact? Is she actually just using black as both a means of disappearing and as a means of expressing her otherwise totally repressed personality? Yes, yes, and a big ol' yes. But guess who's got your back there, bestie? That's right, we do. When logic catches up with her, we've got all the justification she needs to keep her wardrobe as dark as her stone-cold little soul. But hey, that's just a theory. A style theory. Keep looking sharp. Hello, Internet. Welcome to... Spring is in the air, everyone, which means that it's sports season.
Sports go sports!
And with sports season comes some absolutely insane style trends. What am I gonna be wearing to the big game today? Do I paint my head to be a lopsided basketball, or do I just bust out the traditional giant foam finger? Should I be putting on my poofy tartan knickerbockers, or carving my sofa cushion into a giant wedge of cheese to wear upon my head? If I have any hopes of being king of the Jumbotron, I'm gonna need something that's gonna be a physical representation of my extreme need for validation in this world. So many choices. You know what? Let me just put on my thinking cap. Maybe I'll figure something out. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Style Theory, where today's episode is dedicated to everyone who predicted the ST of this new channel would actually stand for Sports Theory.
Go! Go, my favorite sports team! Go! Yeah, they scored a goal unit! Basket!
Take it up with the copyright team over at the NFL. Real talk, Sports Theory would have actually been our 3rd channel had it not been for those guys basically telling us, try it, and we'll come at you so hard. Kind of put a damper on that idea. Now, this might come as a surprise to you, but I'm not what most people would consider a sports guy. Don't get me wrong, I played my fair share of soccer and baseball, but at the end of the day, I was the kid who took bowling lessons in elementary school, because that's what you do when you're a scrawny Polish boy from Ohio. As an added bonus, you get to walk away with a free monogrammed bowling ball, which, much to my surprise, does not help you with the ladies. Why am I telling you all my sports ball history? Well, because sports and style are intrinsically linked. Whether it's played on a field, a mat, or grown-up jungle gym, there's an entire universe to talk about when it comes to sports fashion. There are uniforms, there are colors, there are bathing suits that mimic the physics of shark skin. And that's just talking about the players. When it comes to sports fandoms, there are no limits to what people will do to support their home team. Like Saints fans down in New Orleans wearing black and gold paper bag outfits out of embarrassment during a particularly bad season in the 80s. Or Green Bay Packer fans who cut the cushions out of their sofas to create hats that look like wedges of cheese. I suppose you could say that those outfits are good enough. But all of the sports apparel of the past is paling in comparison to the latest trend that's taken the athletic world by storm, the noggin cap. Basically, if you just took a typical baseball cap and gave it a mega mushroom. So to all you sports theory stands out there, consider this episode a tip of the cap to you. A very big tip of a very big cap. And for all you regular fashionistas out there who are saying, why should I care about a baseball hat the size of an oven? Just you wait, my friend. Because understanding the noggin cap will help you understand almost every crazy piece of clothing that comes across your TikTok feed, whether or not it's ever met a sports ball. Let's just start off with the obvious question. What is this thing? Well, Noggin Boss is a company that was founded in 2020 by these two sporty dudes, Sean and Gabe. They decided to make a big brain move by taking your everyday flat-brimmed baseball cap and enlarging it to match your big brain proportions. The basic idea here is that, hey, oversized foam fingers have been a thing in sports for decades. Let's supersize something else. I guess the long-term goal here is that someday we're just going to be biggie-sizing all of our limbs to support our favorite sports teams. As the story goes, Noggin Boss founder Gabe and his daughter made a prototype giant hat like this as part of a best-dressed golfer competition. Not only did they win, but the positive response they got out of this thing led them to turning it into a brand and starting their business. Because let's be honest with ourselves, who wouldn't want someone sitting in front of them at a sporting event wearing headwear the size of Connecticut? Their early success brought them over to Shark Tank, the show where businesses pitch their ideas to big-time sharks in hopes of getting more funding. And in the case of the Noggin Boss, it worked. Within minutes, they had received a deal to help them put large hats on hundreds of thousands of heads, both fan and pro athlete alike. Since then, this hat has been everywhere. NFL players Josh Allen and Brian Robinson wore him to celebrate a win. ESPN reporters donned him on their recaps. Even Fast and Furious star Ludacris wasn't immune to the giant hat. All of this celebrity endorsement, along with the undeniably eye-catching nature of the hat itself, has led to a universe of articles promoting the brand as the next big thing in sports. But I guess the bigger question about all this fanfare is why? Why are people wearing these elaborate and expensive get-ups in the first place? I mean, these things are running you $125 when customized. It is not cheap for just a gimmicky article of clothing. The obvious answer here is that it's to support their favorite team, but support can only explain so much. You can support something by showing up to a game in a t-shirt. Many fans already do that. So what is it that's driving people to go so far above and beyond? Let's just see what's under the hood. Under the hat, shall we? The first, most obvious benefit of the hat is, of course, getting noticed. Whether it's by other fans, the players, the old jumbotron so you can appear on the all-important kiss cam, pulling attention is a big factor here. Here on the interwebs, we can also relate this back to social media culture with the feeling of Senpai noticed me, or OMG, my favorite creator followed me back or liked my comment. There's a feeling of connectedness if you manage to get noticed. In sports, an acknowledgement on the jumbotron literally means that in a stadium full of tens of thousands of screaming people, you, yes you, have been singled out as a particularly passionate fan. In baseball, standing out in the crowd could mean the difference between a player tossing you a spare ball versus just tossing it over to the snot-nosed kid next to you wearing the regular old baseball cap. Screw him, you're the one that's wearing headgear the size of a studio apartment. That ball is yours. And sports has a long history of living the mantra bigger is better. Ralph Bruno, the creator of the original Cheesehead, was unsure about his decision to wear couch sofa foam on his head until women started coming up to him asking for pictures. He and his friends liked that attention, and now cheeseheads are a Wisconsin staple. Steve Schmeller, the creator of the first documented oversized #1 finger hand, said this, quote, I remember we used to hold our arm erect with a finger signifying #1. I thought if I could make that much bigger, it would get more attention. Falling right in line with these historical successes, Noggin Boss has this to say about their customers, quote again, Noggin Bosses are social media magnets. Players and fans flock for selfies, and you'll get even more hype when you catch yourself and your brand on the Jumbotron. Now, I'm a guy working on the internet. I'm not poo-pooing anyone who's looking to get attention, but there is another side to this story. Items like the Noggin Boss definitely help you stand out, and in an ironic twist, they also make you feel less alone. Let's go a little deeper into the psychology of an item like this, because there's a lot of mind games to unpack with this enormous hat. There's been plenty of documented research around the reasons we feel compelled to do certain things at sports games that we wouldn't be likely to do anywhere else. Chant like a maniac with tens of thousands of other people, paint our whole face purple, yell at the ref for a bad call that he made 6 feet away and that you made from 600 feet away. All of these are uncharacteristic actions that come down to a very specific environment that you're in, namely an arena full of people. Events like big sports games cause the unique social psychological phenomenon known as disinhibition and de-individuation, where a person breaks their normal code of behavior to become part of the group. You ever been to a concert where you belt out a song with like 5,000 other people and it feels great? Have you ever joined into the wave at a football game and felt really happy, like you were part of something cool in the moment? Well, what you're experiencing there is a release of endorphins due to your de-individuation. You are no longer acting alone, making decisions alone, having to work up the nerve to do anything by yourself. You're now part of a collective making choices together. This feeling like you're part of a hive mind leads to disinhibition, the lowering of your guard when it comes to behavior that you wouldn't normally engage in. Most of it's simple. Feel more comfortable wearing your team's colors with pride, wiggling your foam finger or head banging with your cheese hat. But amplify those feelings and you start to see how Green Bay Packer fans decide to wear bikinis in the snow, why rolling up to a Raiders game in full Mad Max core seems like a no-brainer, or even why rioting after your team loses is somehow acceptable. These fans are likely people with a normal job, family, life outside of the games, but suddenly they feel compelled to go big or go home for their favorite team, their favorite band, their favorite creator. Noggin caps are a perfect example of a disinhibited article of clothing, one that we probably wouldn't wear just anywhere, but that we feel empowered to slap on our heads as soon as it can make us feel like part of an in-group who like the same team we do. That said, the psychology of this hat actually goes another layer deeper. Yes, the individual wearing the Noggin Boss benefits from the feelings of de-individuation, but this phenomenon is actually so effective that it's not just them who feels it, the fans around them rooting for both teams can feel the difference. To show you what I mean, let's look at 3 famous college football fans: Sean Caudle, Will Dam, and Brian Pinks. These 3 Nebraska Cornhusker fans achieved national fame when they began wearing these wildly dapper outfits to football games. While they acknowledge that the outfits get attention, they also notice that their designs are appreciated not just by Husker fans, but by fans on the opposing team as well who'd otherwise be hostile. Sean Caudle was surprised by this reaction, saying, quote, "Both Husker fans and the opposing teams, they all love it. We're all sports fans, and I think they really appreciate the effort and they get the picture and it's kind of fun." This idea that when you wear something crazy to a sports game, it doesn't just affect you, but also the people around you is part of a phenomenon called the white coat effect, where people actually embody the expectations of what they're wearing. The crux of the idea is the same as saying you look good, you feel good, where if you dress a certain way, whether it's fancy or professional or crazy, the way you dress actually changes the way the world sees you and how you yourself behave. In one study, researchers took a group of participants and dressed half of them in street clothes and the other half in doctor's lab coats. They then asked participants to perform a number of tasks while regular onlookers off the street rated them on their friendliness, authority, trustworthiness, and attractiveness. Get this, people rated those wearing doctor's lab coats as more authoritative and more attractive than their counterparts only wearing regular street clothes. And while no, you're not exactly impersonating a respected profession when you put on your Noggin Boss hat, you are likely presenting yourself in a way that gives off perceived confidence. And in return, you receive positive reactions from onlookers that'll make you feel and start to act more outgoing and passionate. It's a virtuous cycle. But we're still not done here. Even after talking about the psychology of sporting events, the mental empowerment of dressing to support your team, the ability to stand out in a crowd, I still hear some skepticism about these Noggin Boss hats. I hear you saying that actually these hats are all meant to be a joke. Old Matt Pat, there he goes again, taking everything too seriously. Why can't he just let people wear an ironically enormous hat and move on? But you see, that's the interesting word there, ironically. There are a lot of interesting, crazy, outlandish pieces of clothing out there that get swept into this category of ironic. Stuff like, oh, they're not wearing that seriously, they're just wearing it as a joke. But let's just look at what it actually means to wear something ironically, or just for the lulz. Because at the end of the day, that's where these hats may have started, but it's not where they're winding up. Turns out there's a very clear reason we go from wearing fun novelty items for the lulz to wearing something because we actually want to. No irony involved. We can actually see it happen over and over again in the wide world of fashion, and it's already starting to happen with the Noggin Boss. Rosemary Blake's a photographer who knows all about ironic clothes, and who shot for OGBFF, the makers of the TikTok viral miniskirt. She says, quote, "There's an appeal in wearing something that'll make others laugh or feel slightly uneasy. It's an art form that allows you to be something you're not. Mismatching prints and bold graphic tees are just another way to boost your confidence. And if it's not there, use the pieces to fake it till you make it." What she's saying here is that it takes a lot of confidence to wear something super silly, comically oversized, or provocative in a way that makes people feel uncomfortable. But at the same time, just the act of wearing those things actually gives the wearer the confidence they need to pull it off. Wearing these ironic pieces of clothing tends to lead to positive reinforcement in the form of attention, reaction, strong emotional responses in other people. Think about all the unusual items that you might have seen online recently. The big red anime boot, the upside down dress, the whatever these things are. They get a ton of engagement online. Love them, hate them, either way, you have an opinion. And once you see them, you remember them. The makers and brave fashionistas that are wearing these crazy items on the other side of your screen are getting the positive reinforcement of dopamine from likes, comments, and yes, getting asked for selfies. Over time, we stop associating some of these items with feeling edgy, and we just start associating them with feeling happy. Before you know it, more people want to participate in what was considered boundary pushing and weird. But if thousands of people on TikTok are doing it, that's not boundary pushing anymore. That's when a piece of clothing stops being ironic and starts being a trend, honey. Probably the best example of this irony to mainstream transition is the classic story of Uggs, the sheepskin boots often worn by surfers during the 1960s in Australia. Since the 1970s, these things have gone from popular to hated, to popular to hated, to ironic, and lately with 2021's ugly shoe craze back to popular, right alongside Gucci rubber platform shoes and chunky-soled dad sandals, which all were deemed cool, trendy shoes by Glamour magazine. Other past examples include trucker hats, which exploded in popularity in the early 2000s with the Von Dutch craze and Ashton Kutcher on Punk before ultimately disappearing. Now they're making their comeback on the heads of celebrities like Dua Lipa and Rihanna, who may have started wearing them to be ironically uncool, but immediately sparked them into coolness again when fans and followers wanted to be in on the joke. So does this mean that we'll be seeing Noggin Boss jump from the sports world onto the runways of New York Fashion Week? Probably not, though I will say it probably wouldn't be the weirdest thing to strut the catwalk in recent seasons. Either way, one final tip of the cap to Sean and Gabe for having the confidence to put their money where their noggin is. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go buy some oversized clown shoes before those things pop off. But hey, that's just a theory. A style theory. Keep looking sharp. And if the weird history of fashion is what you're after, click the video on the left to watch us crack open the conspiracy behind the size of women's pockets. Or you can...
Hello, Mr. Matt.
Welcome to Theorist Academy, where the very best and brightest of theorists come to hone their skills. And now that you've signed up to join our ranks, it's time to present you with your official mandatory Theorist Academy uniform. You're required to wear this all day, every day. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I forgot the most important thing. We also care about your nutrition here, so we require all our students drink at least 6 Diet Cokes an hour. Better start drinking. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Style Theory, where the only thing you need to do to become one of the cool kids is subscribe. Not that I was ever a cool kid in school. I was an overachieving drama nerd, and I was proud of it. Feast your peepers on some of this cringe.
I'm the champion! Yeah!
Okay, I'll give the audience what they want, John. Here we go. Always want to be in Riverdance. Just introduce yourself to me, even if I don't know you. It's a great way to meet new people. And, you know, I'd be honored to meet you myself.
My pants had so many pleats, it was like I was a hot air balloon ready to take off. MC Hammer's parachute pants had nothing on these babies. And let me tell you, nothing distracts you away from that unibrow better than a neon orange button-down extra large shirt. Needless to say, my fashion sense at the time was, unconventional to say the least. And I've definitely found better, healthier ways to funnel what I liked about my clothes, color, sparkles, stuff that feels a bit more formal like suit jackets and just interesting textures, into clothing that actually works better and makes more sense for who I am today. That said, I always wondered what would have happened if I went to a school with a uniform. If school would have been easier for me. If I would have gotten less bullied. And what's a style channel for if not to research and examine my past childhood traumas for content instead of going to therapy? That's a joke, by the way. We are very pro-therapy here at Theorist. Anyway, it's time to dive back into the hellish hallways of high school to see whether uniforms help or hurt your educational experience, at least according to science. First things first, let's talk about where the whole idea for matching sets of children came from. When I think about school uniforms, my mind immediately goes to the kind that you see in media. The blazers and ties paired with trousers and skirts. t-shirts. Turns out this is still pretty darn faithful to the original concept of school uniforms, which originally dated back as far as 1222 in England. As I found out, England is basically the motherland for the school uniform. Everyone from the US to Japanese anime takes its cue from England's long history of students in jumpers and knee-high socks, but it didn't always start that way. Originally, all schools were for men studying religion, specifically Christianity, and the Archbishop of Canterbury, who was the head of the church there, required attendees studying religious texts to wear something known as the Kappa Klausa, basically the cross-section of a priest's robe and a wizarding ensemble. The first recording of more modern-looking school uniforms was in the 16th century at the Christ's Hospital School, known for its blue blazers and yellow socks. Look at that dapper dude just rocking his stuff. So fast forward to today with schools full of every blue-green and blue-green plaid version of their uniform. Why are they still considered kind of a controversial subject? It's been like 800 years. Why haven't we figured out whether school uniforms or no school uniforms are better for the kids? Well, to understand that, we need to know what the uniforms are intended to do. The big pro-uniform argument actually falls into three major categories: money, performance, and social. So let's break each of these down. Money is pretty self-explanatory, right? Most of us have gone back to school shopping at least at one point in our lives. Not only does the standard back-to-school list involve the school supplies that you need, like pencils, notebooks, and my personal favorite, the graphing calculator, rest in peace TI-83 Silver Edition, it usually involves new clothing for the school year. Now, your mileage may vary, depending on how much you grow or keep up with the latest trends on TikTok, but either way, the clothing costs for school can add up real fast. According to Statista.com, the average parent was expected to spend approximately $864.35 on back-to-school shopping in 2022. Clothes and shoes clocked in at $431.74, just 87 cents away from being half of the total spendings. We also have to consider what exactly is meant by the average. If you're anything like me, my family went to the abandoned mall in central Cleveland where there was like one Dillard's outlet in the middle of this thing with everything 90% off. And then once we were there, we bought all-size extra-large button-down shirts because, hey, those are the types of clothing that would last. I mean, I was wearing stuff that was so big it probably could have passed as a poncho. We shopped very rarely. I was expected to keep all my clothes in excellent condition, and like I said, if you buy the biggest size right off the bat, well, you never grow out of anything. But kids at the other end of the spectrum going to my same school might be shopping, say, 3 to 4 times during the school year, or heck, every weekend. And they were shopping at the fancy places, like the not sale rack in the Rio Mall. When I was in school, if you had those polo shirts from Abercrombie & Fitch that came in every color, you were living it large. If you could swing for dark wash jeans and a sweater vest from Lacoste or DKNY, you were living that rich kid life. The point is, there is a huge range here, and most kids, if given the option, are gonna flex all over their peers in the grade school land grab for social status. The idea of having school uniforms is that it takes away the visual reminder of what could be a huge income gap between wealthy and non-wealthy students. Everyone buys the uniform from the uniform store, everyone looks